companion, someone to watch it unfold. Doors are swinging open, but my eyes are always closed. Oh, can you remember riding down the beach, our feet got wet? Oh, can you remember back upon the days when we first met? Oh, can you remember riding down the beach?
Good evening, welcome to the Pelikan Podcast. We're on number 46 tonight, and this will be our last podcast up till probably about October time, and then hopefully by that time we'll be able to all be together in the one room when the restrictions of kind of quieting down a wee bit. Brilliant album the night, and this is the second time we've managed to get, we did it with the Colonel Mustard and the Dijon 5 when we get John McMustard and David Blair on, and we're doing the same again. We're getting a previous guest and we're going to review their album and go track by track. Medicine Men's A Different Port. Andy, you'll know every week, I think I mention Medicine Men every week, so I'd have probably brought this album on anyway.
You've always been a big advocate. It was you that kind of got me into them, and I mean, bloody hell, man, amazing. I mean, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just been a great week, and it's just been an absolute pleasure listening to this.
Yeah,
you know
it has.
It's like refreshing. It's different. It's
totally different.
It's something, you know. It's got a bit of an edge. It can also be relaxing. It's got just everything you would want for an album. Yes,
if you're watching tonight, guys, get it downloaded and have a wee listen through as we go through the tracks. Ian will be on in a minute, and he'll be like a track by track thing, and very interesting, I'm sure. We've also got on Skimmer tonight. How you doing?
Evening, lads.
Shut my back door here.
Evening's on.
How are you getting on? A hectic day here.
Listen, it's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a beer. We're about to talk tunes. What more do you want?
I know, that's it. And is this you in your newly built bar?
No, I'm in the kitchen.
Are you in the kitchen? Sorry.
I'm in the kitchen. If
So
I
that
walk to the toilet, if I'm in
is that me saying your bar, your kitchen looks like a man cave? Sorry, mate.
That's all right. Quite like that.
Quite like that wall there. A nice grey. That's the unhing now, isn't it?
Absolutely, aye.
So what about yourself, Medicine Men? Have you played with them before?
Aye, we played the main stage at Butte Fest. Well, obviously it wasn't last year, because it happened last year. The year before. A
couple of years ago, yeah.
Aye, and they were on directly after us. So we hung about, and obviously I watched their set, and that's when I got into them, because I'd heard of them before and that, and I just would never cross paths at gigs or anything like that, but they were on directly after us, so I thought, well, because you know what it's like, you come off stage, especially when you're playing at a festival and that, and there's punters that have watched you, and we're hanging about having a chat with folk that had watched our set, and then they'd started their set, and I really enjoyed it. So we stood and watched the full set. So
some really setup as well, innit? It's like, it's a great. I mean, we had the mandate Press Fest one year, and it's probably the most professional band we've ever worked with Press Fest. There in time, sat and watched the bands before them, get themselves set up within the 15 minutes, no bother, and it was a lot of gear. And then, I mean, I was doing the sound, and I'm not a sound engineer, and the sound was absolutely, I didn't need to touch anything. It was absolutely fantastic. So it kind of just shows, and the sound you get for this album is pretty much what you're getting on stage as well, which we try and do, Andy. We're trying to add some electro stuff into it, and we're in recording, and we're going, hold on, I mean, how the fuck are we going to do this live?
I know. It's like, AJ, how many horns you got?
But I always say that, I don't think you don't necessarily need to recreate your album sound live. I don't think it's an essential thing, but if
you'd be fucked then. Auto-tune doesn't work live.
Exactly. We didn't know fuck all about that. You never seen us live.
You're just happy to talk. You're just happy to get words out and make them more kind of mean something when you're singing live. You're always that gassed.
Well, no, that's right. I resent that comment.
I'll watch what I'm doing tonight, because if I tell any jokes, there's nothing worse than telling a joke and then you can't hear it. and then you
What?
ask to repeat it, and then you're up at the screen. So I'm going. I better watch with my jokes tonight and make sure they're loud enough.
We've had a technological faux pas the night. My laptop's back to dust, so I'm on the iPad and the headphones don't work with it. So,
but it's not like you, to be fair. But anyway, right, let's get our guest on, all the way from sunny Glasgow, the lead singer and frontman of Medicine Men, Mr. Ian MacKinnon. Ian, how you doing?
How we doing, boys?
There he is. Second appearance.
I know.
Does he get stars? Do we give him a t-shirt with a couple of stars?
Aye, that sounds like a plan. We'll get them made up and we'll get them sent out. Aye.
Aye.
well, they've made stars from the Rangers now.
Here we go again. I heard that, Ian. Second time in the podcast, and we're delighted you're allowing us, because we weren't sure of doing this before, like kind of reviewing somebody else's album, but something I'd like it done. If I brought an album out, I'd like to hear what folks thought about it. Because that's what you and then have a track by track listen to it. Yeah.
Aye, well, that's the bit I'm worried about. All you scoring it, to be honest. But no, thanks for having us on again. Like, and I think it's important to point out for the listeners that I didn't come on here. How came on an album? It was your idea. So
yeah, definitely, yeah.
So thanks very much. I mean, it's been out over a year now, and if I'm being honest, it's not done anything, and that can sometimes be disheartening. So to have people speak about it, like even the users have been speaking about already, man, that really means a lot. So thanks very much to all three of you, man.
Yeah. No
I'm
bother
just,
at all.
I didn't realise it'd been out for over a year. I'm gutted this time and this long to listen to it, to be honest.
Well, this is one of the problems, I think, is that it came out in the middle of a pandemic, and not like, and though I mean those first couple of months were just chaos, and so you can kind of see why it got lost. Not that I'm saying it would have done much anyway, but I think putting it out when in the middle of all that, you know, trying to get radio and press to cover it during that first couple of months was just, you know, for us anyway, it was a hiding to nothing, you know.
You always want to gig an album as well, don't you? Like, when
of course,
of
course.
Go out and gig it.
But I mean, the option was there to delay it, but something just told me about this whole thing that it was going to be a lot longer than 2 or 3 months. Do you know what I mean? I just kind of had a feeling. I mean, I think I read something. It was in was it Drowned in Sound or something like that? And I read a thing online, and it was right at the start of this whole thing, and basically it was basically saying, this could be some scientific person saying, this will be 18 months. So and they just said, look, between everything else, and do you know what, they've been proved right. They've been proved pretty right. Do you know what I mean? So I just thought, and if you look at other artists that have tried to delay albums and stuff, and I mean that James Bond film, man. I mean, do you know, by the time that comes out, by the time that comes out, it'll be like the Stone Roses' second album. It won't be able to live up to the hype. Do you know what I mean? Because it's taken them that long to get it out.
Well, Daniel Craig will be collecting his fucking pension.
I know. He'd be about 80.
And there's I quite like how bands have tried it though. Like even the likes of Biffy Clyro and all that. They brought an album out in the pandemic, and they managed to get into the bar. They've tried to do things to get folk to engage with their album. The likes of you guys, use of the music video is a great thing. So bringing out a music video every wee while kind of engages folk, and then things like this as well. I think this will be really good because there's fans of Medicine Men. I think Medicine Men's got a kind of a culty status, and the folk that really love Medicine Men really love them. Do you know what I mean? I think like your band, I think they really love the band, and then when new folk come on, they're like Jason tonight. Like although he's heard these before, once you get into this album and hear it, even our public perception. So we get three people to listen to the album as well and give us their public score. So obviously folk that maybe aren't into music as much but like listening to an album, they've kind of given scores as well. But so also, was it a Tenants advert you got as well, which was pretty cool?
So I recently so I basically get asked, did we own the rights to the track, or did the label own it? Luckily enough, the label don't do that with their artists. They don't own anything, which is great. So but I wasn't told anything about it. I was just asked by someone, do you own the rights to it? And I said yes. And then didn't hear anything for a few weeks. And then basically just got asked, could we use this? It's for Terence. And they said, we tried it we tried the advert with like over 100 other tracks, and yours worked the best. So it's quite good. I mean, it's nice to hear, because I think a lot of these things, you've got sync agents and publishers pushing tracks forward for it. So I mean, we don't have any of that. So just to get it purely on merit was really, really nice, So it was good. And
that's amazing that they've just found the track then.
Obviously it's a Glasgow company, so I think somebody must have suggested it. Listen, it's just, especially when the album had been out for a long time and nothing had really happened to it. Now I get the whole thing with the pandemic and all that, but you do kind of get disheartened sometimes, because you all know how much you put into something like this. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of times you wonder why. Do you know what I mean? And especially as you get older, and you're like, real life just kind of starts getting a bit more kind of serious as you get older, doesn't it? So it gets hard. It gets harder and harder to justify doing something that costs you so much time and money and brings in absolutely nothing else. Do you know what I mean? It's like other people have hobbies, right? But you find that other people will have hobbies that don't cost them much money, or they'll even bring in some money. Well, explaining this hobby to people where, no, not only does it not make me any money, it costs me money. Do you know what I mean? And it costs me loads of time. And it's the most stressful thing you can possibly do. And then you think, sometimes when I'm telling people about it, I'm thinking to myself,
what am I doing?
What the fuck am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? I'm fucking 36 years old. So it gets harder and harder as you get older to keep going with this stuff, So, so to get something like that is a nice wee reward, and they gave us some money as well. Do you know what I mean? I can't retire on it, but they gave us some money, which was nice, And they didn't have to, because they could have just said, if we'd asked for money, they could have just said, well, look, 100 bands will do it for free. But they said, no, look, you'll get paid and all that, don't worry. And so no, it was cool. It was nice.
It's brilliant, man. What an achievement.
Okay.
Craig Anderson watched the night evening, guys, and Debbie Renane for the Renanes as well. Debbie, they're celebrating a wee number 1 in the rock charts with a Flower of Scotland cover. So that's really good for them. Right, we're going to talk about how Medicine Men got together, but first of all, we're going to play a full album track. This is Getaway Driver. So we'll play this and then we'll come back with Ian. This is song number 2 in the album. We'll review it in a wee while, but this is Getaway Driver, and when we come back we'll talk to Ian about how Medicine Men met, the recording of this album, and get tore into it. Here we go.
Sinking without a chase, watching as the waves go by, saving your special face for the keepers of your private eye. You try to run your race and blend in with the passers-by, but used up all your grace. You love it, but you have to try. Everybody needs a getaway
Great stuff. What a tune. Great video as well. Quite a cool video. All your videos are cool. Who does your videos? Is it the same person, Ian?
No, so that one was a really kind of last minute job because at the time I was quite frustrated with everything, and we had that track sitting there, and I just thought, fuck it, I'm releasing this next week, and I don't care what anyone thinks. And so it's a Hungarian guy called it's spelled Arpad, but it's pronounced Arpe.
Oh,
Arpe Horvath, his name is, and so he.
Horvath.
I've came across him before.
He did Soldier On's.
He did. Yeah. So he did loads of stuff. He moved here to do a postgrad in photography at Glasgow Uni, and he just so happened to move in with Mick, our keyboard player. So he was renting Mick's spare room, and basically just got talking and came to see the band, and just kind of started working with us. So I think he did stuff for previous band Selective Service. He did photos for us first, which were great, and then when we started Medicine Men, he started doing videos as well. So, but I think through doing stuff for us, I think a lot of other bands started using them as well. So he got quite a lot of work. But he's back in Hungary now, just doing like TV commercials and stuff, just because that's easy money, do you know.
Getting the money for that as well, yeah.
Aye, because there's not
cool.
much money to be made out of bands in Scotland, unsigned bands in Scotland, unfortunately. You can't make a career out of it.
Craig Lamont, good friend. Craig loves that tune as well, so he loves Getaway Driver. Definitely a Getaway Driver. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, I was going to get into it there, but we'll talk about it later. Ian, so Medicine Men, I know you'd said at the start that with this we have a podcast full of how you got together, but just briefly, how did you get together? Like,
well, me and Mick, the keyboard player, we were in a band called Selective Service from about 2008, 2009 till 2013. So we did that for a few years, and that was more of a kind of blues rock sound we had with, like, he had like the Wurlitzer and the Hammond organ and all that, and so yeah, we did that for a few years, but then we just it got to a point where the sound had really changed, the sound had really moved on, so it was getting a lot more electronic, a lot more kind of synth based, and so we'd lost another drummer, and then we didn't have anything else booked in the diary, so I just me and Mick kind of decided, well, I think we should change the name of the band, because the new stuff that we're doing doesn't sound like Selective Service, and let's give it, and because that's the thing, like people pigeonhole you very quickly. I don't know if it just happens up here, but people make their mind up about you very quickly, and then if you try and change, or even if you try and improve, like, and do something great, like, people won't listen to it because they'll think, well, that's Selective Service, we know what they're all about, and so we changed the name. And it was me, Mick. So me and Mick are the two kind of constant throughout here. And then, to be honest, a lot when we changed the name to Medicine Men. I mean, this is what I call the great rock and roll swindle, because we changed the name to Medicine Men. Right, we'd done about 4 gigs, and we submitted for Tea Break that year, and nobody knew it was us, so they thought it was a brand new band, and they'd never given Selective Service the time of day, and basically the judges basically thought, oh, who are these guys? They sound brilliant. Oh, we need to get them in, and so they put us, and it just shows you how much of a fucking bullshit thing that is, right? Because we swindled them, man. We pulled the wool over their eyes, like, and absolutely done them a belter. And so yeah, we played the last ever Tea in the Park at Ballado, which was great.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we weren't ready, because it was too rushed, because it all just started happening. Like, looking back now, we probably had one song that was good enough at that point, which is show what you're made of.
Tune.
The rest of the material, like looking back now, the rest of the material was nowhere near good enough to be like going and doing these sorts of gigs. So I think that
introduction.
Yeah,
Show
so
what you're made of,
I think getting all that so quickly, and then when we released Show What You're Made Of, like I actually did quite well. Like I get playlisted to the next FM, so it was on like every day, like for a couple of weeks, and then it get covered in Q magazine and all that, and so, but then we didn't have at that point
backup.
The rest of the material wasn't that good. So I think that to be honest, I think that kind of still hampers us to this day. Like how that we got too much kind of too early based on one song really, and yeah. So I mean after that, I mean we've had quite a lot of another thing that's probably hampered us is lineup changes, like people leaving basically, and as we were kind of saying earlier on, do you know what I mean? Like I get it, like real life gets in the way, and the thing that used to frustrate me was when other people went as into it as I was. I just couldn't understand why everyone else wasn't as into it as me. But I think getting a bit older now, you can understand. You know what I mean? It's got to be something that people love to do and enjoy, and when they're not doing that, then they should step aside. You know what I mean? Because I've had people who have. I mean, there was one guy who I basically had to go to and say, "Look, man, I'm getting the feeling that you're not really wanting to be involved here," and he admitted that, and so I mean, yeah, so that's kind of hampered us as well. The lineup we've got just now is without doubt the best we've ever had. Like, and so if we'd had that lineup earlier on, it would have been
Is
a lot
this
different.
new? Is this new lineup? The lineups and the whole band. This album, sorry. Yeah. Who is the new lineup then? So who are the guys?
I say new. It's about 4 years now, but so basically we had our first album ready to go, but we had no drummer and no bass player. And when Last Night in Glasgow said they wanted to put it out, I didn't tell them that we didn't have a drummer or a bass player, because I didn't want them to get cold feet, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
But luckily enough, there was a band called Gangs who featured two of the guys that were in the Imagineers who did really, really well a few years ago, like did American TV and all that. So they were just getting going, but then for some reason they split up. And then their bass player, Mark McCallum, came to me and said, "Are you still looking for someone?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Could I audition?" I said, "Well, look, no, you don't need to audition because I know how good you are." But but at that point, we'd auditioned 2 drummers, 2 bass players, and then me and Mick actually looked at each other after one of these auditions and went, I think we're fucked here. I don't think we're going to get people in time, because the label wanted us to do a gig at the end of March, and this was middle of January. But luckily, when Mark said he was in, I said, "Well, what can you ask? Can you ask Fobo as well then?" So Fobo took a bit of convincing. The drummer, he took a bit of convincing, but luckily enough, we managed to get them. Yeah, we got the 2 of them. And so, but I tell you right now, if we hadn't got them when we did, then there probably wouldn't even have been a first album, let alone a second album, because I was ready to jack it at that point. But then, so once we got them, we had a great summer that year when the first album came out. Like, done some amazing festivals, and then but I mean, even though we did like Transmit, we did Isle of Wight, we did Electric Fields, we did a few smaller ones as well, like Buttefest and Kelburn and stuff like that. But so even though we were out there, this is what I'm saying about maybe it wasn't because of the pandemic, but because with the first album we were out there, and the album still didn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it's so again, I just don't know, but that was a great summer anyway, regardless of all that. So since then, that's been the lineup, and one thing those guys didn't play on the first album, so I really wanted, because of how good things were sounding live after all these years of me wanting, like, finally getting the band that I thought did us, like, that we deserved, you know. And I was like, we need to make an album with this lineup, like, we just have to. And so no matter what else happens, you know, so I'm glad we got it done, you know.
A decent start then with this lineup, and it's great how it all just falls into pieces. I think you've had the same thing, Jason, with Seaside Sons as well. It was like life kind of get in the road, and I see you like Ian as well, kind of leader of the band, dying for it to go places, and maybe know everybody on the same page in that. Must be frustrating.
I don't know if it was that so much. I think it was more. I've always said if we'd done Seaside Sons 10 years before we did, we would have probably got signed, we'd have probably went places. But when we started it, like, we all had mortgages and kids. So it's like, yeah, it was fucking great. We had a great time and played these festivals. But can you commit to it 110%? Nobody could. Because you know, as much as we put 110% into the tunes and into what we were doing, you've still got to go to your work and pay the bills. You know?
Yeah.
It's refreshing to hear, as much as I like, obviously don't like hearing it, it's refreshing to hear that it wasn't just frustrating for me and my band. It's like we're exactly in the same boat. Like, you think, fuck, you pour your heart and your soul.
I've said this before about you as well, Ian. It's, you do get people like to, I'm not saying you're not bumming up your band, but you're very humble, you're very honest about how things work. Like, you're very like, you get these gigs, you've played Teen Apart, you've played Isle of Wight. So if you get that, sometimes bands that do that just fall into themselves and kind of have themselves at a higher pedestal than they really are. When the reality is it's great to play these gigs, but at the end of the day, you know, your popularity is who's buying your albums and who, like,
totally.
So playing the festivals, like, do a tour, do a, if you're playing Isle of Wight, do your tour around the UK kind of thing, you know. It's but I sorry, just before you go on again, there's a band. Do you like Future Islands?
Aye, I do actually.
Aye. They remind me a lot like you, but obviously you're not mad as their lead singer. But
maybe I fucking should have been.
I think well, he's really the kind of focal point of that band, isn't he? But they've had that kind of journey as well. They've really worked really hard and got that kind of break. I think it'll still happen for you guys, but even what you are doing now, I mean, like, you've got, you know, I heard you in Talk Sport, Landy.
Aye. Yeah, so it's like
guy first met you.
Yeah, so Johnny Owen, who's a mate of mine, when he's a kind of filmmaker director now, but he did this film called Svengali a few years ago.
Yeah,
and it was funny. It was a web series first, and then he basically got it turned into a film because of the popularity of the web series. But when he came up here, I heard through a mate that after the screening at the GFT, he was looking for somebody to DJ. So at that point, the Priory had just opened, and Jokey, who's a mate of mine, I said to him, "Look, can we get this guy down?" So through this kind of intermediary, we got that sorted. So Johnny's remained a good mate ever since, you know. And when he got the show on Talk Sport, he said, "Look, I'm going to get you on. Like, well, I'm going to play the song. I'm going to get you on." So I think he's plugged it a few times, and he got when I did the Thistle tune, the Partick Thistle tune, a couple of months ago, he played that as well, and then he got me on to chat about it. So cool. He's brilliant. He's one of life's real good guys, you know. Like, he's done. He's a total self-made guy. Like, he's from a mining town in Wales, and what he's done in his life, just through basically a lot of the stuff that's happened for him has happened because he's just a nice guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And is his wife or is his girlfriend's Vicky McClure?
Aye, so they're engaged. They're engaged. I mean, her as well. Like, she came with him that night when he DJ'd, and I met her a few times. Again, like, she's so down to earth. She's so nice. She'll talk to anyone. She's just a normal girl. Do you know what I mean? She's just a normal woman, like, who just likes a wee drink and likes a laugh. Do you know what I mean? The two of them are just absolute gems, honestly.
That's amazing. So you've got the band together. You've got a good sound. So where did you decide to record this album? And also, were the tracks ready, or did you write any of the tracks in the recording studio?
The tracks were not ready, and while they weren't written in the recording studio, because I mean who can afford to do that? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
That's true, aye.
It's a lot of money to pay to do. It's a lot of like £200 a day to do something that you could probably be doing in your bedroom. Do you know what I mean? It's but no. So I recorded a track with Crash Club. It was the last track that I did with them, and basically they'd basically got this guy Jags Cooner to produce these 3 tracks that they were recording. The studio they were meant to use cancelled on them at the last minute, so they were scrambling around trying to find a studio. And then basically the day before, I got the call to say, "I will record at this place. It's in Ayrshire. It's just outside Kilmarnock." And I was like, "Well, give you the address." I'm like, "Don't know the address. Give you the address tomorrow." So they gave me rough. They didn't give me an address. They gave me rough directions. So I'm driving about these wee farms in rural Ayrshire trying to find this place. Finally found it, and it's like a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And so we recorded there with Jags, and the guy who ran the studio, Gordon McNeil, he was there as well. I really liked the place because we'd always recorded in city studios before that. But I really liked it, like just being in the middle of nowhere and just going outside to clear your ears and just having complete peace and quiet. I really loved it, and probably the closest experience to like actually a residential studio that we were ever going to get. So, because it is just Gordon's house, you know. And so, basically, a few months later, we'd written a few new tunes, and I said, let's go in and record one track just to see how we got on. And see how we got on with Gordon and stuff like that. And so we went there and we recorded Back on Board. And it was great. It was great, man. Gordon was brilliant. Like, Gordon's got a lot of experience playing in bands himself. And he's also a pretty serious session drummer. Has done really well with that. So he was brilliant, and it was just so cool. So we recorded that, and I mixed it with Gordon, and then it was basically a case of getting the money together. Whenever we could get the money together, we'd go and do a track.
Cool, right, yeah.
But then it got to a stage where the label said to us, "Right, if you want it to come out next year," this was like summer 2019, and they said, "Right, well, we've got they were signing so many artists that the release year was filling up, and they didn't want to put out more than one album a month. So they said, look, we've got a slot in May 2020, but we need the album mid-January. And this was summer. And I was like, right, we've only recorded 3 tracks here, like, and we've got no money. So I was kind of resigned to the fact that we're not going to be able to do this, you know. So what happened was I was at a party one night with some mates, and a mate of mine who doesn't want to be named. But
you beat him at poker?
No. I wish I'd won it as legally as that, trust me. But he basically said, what's happening with the band? And I said, well, I want to do this second album, but basically ran out of money. And then he said, how much do you think it would cost to get it done? And I told him, and he went, I'll sort that. And wow. I thought it was just 4 a.m. party chat, do you know what I mean? But on the Monday morning, he texted me saying the money was in my bank account.
Wow!
And
holy shit, man!
I know. That's actually happened to us a couple of times before. Like, we're just mates who've got a bit of money. Have said, "I'll give you a few grand," and at no point have these people ever got their money back. Right? Mm-hmm. Never. And so that's that. I said to him, I said, mate, you're never going to get this money back. Like, and there's a 99.9% chance that you're never going to see this again. And he went, that's fine, it's cool. Got the money, it's fine.
It just shows these guys have
got new mates.
Aye. But it just shows you as well, you know, that the guys round about you have got faith in you. You know what I mean? They've got that bad belief in you, you know, that you're going to do well, and quite rightly so, you know.
Aye, I mean, it was. I mean, he's a guy that's done really kind of well in the last few years. He's got his own business, and it's just kind of it's really taken off, you know. So, the one thing he said was, I don't want to be named on the album. I don't want you to tell anyone that I've done this. Just take the money and do it. Do you know what I mean? So at that point, I was like, right, we've got the money, but we don't have the fucking songs. We had a few ideas. I had a few ideas kicking about. But I was like, because I'd given up hope on it happening, I'd kind of stopped working on the music. So kind of had to get it together, written and recorded, and then just whenever Gordon had a free Sunday, we were just in. And then we managed to get it all recorded by the end of December. And then I basically took a week off, and then me and Gordon mixed it in a week at the start of January. And compared to the first album, where it was recorded over the course of 5 years, and this one was basically condensed into, 6 months pretty much. So
yeah.
But there's no doubt the second album is a better album. And sometimes when you're forced into that stuff, and sometimes when you're just forced into things, that's sometimes when you do your best work. I mean, certainly from a writing point of view, like I'm not prolific at all. Like, I see people who, like, I know people who are just writing all the time. I'm just not like that. But at that point, I was kind of forced into it, or else we weren't going to get it done, and it wasn't coming out. So I don't even remember writing a lot of the stuff for these songs. I just kind of got it done. And then the other guys obviously kind of helped out as well when it came to like rehearsing their parts and recording and stuff. But overall, it was a brilliant experience, man. It was great recording out in the country and in the middle of nowhere, and just being able to step outside and kind of clear your head and just have that open road, and recording in a house as well. It was lovely.
Are you hands-on?
Yeah.
Are you very hands-on, or was the producer, was he like giving ideas, or was he just there to produce?
The thing is, I'm very hands-on because before we started recording with Gordon, I had to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, with the first album, sometimes we were having to take tracks back 4 and 5 times before we were happy with it. And even then, like, if I listen to that first album now, there's so many problems with it.
Yeah. And you want to get it right going in.
Yeah, some of it's all right, but there's so many problems with it. With the second album, I did sit with Gordy, but I would say, like, this is what I want for the drums, this is what I want for the vocal, this is what I want for the bass or whatever. But a lot of the time, Gordon would say, "Well, do you want to listen to this?" And then he would do something that was even better than what I was thinking of. Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
So it was great working with him, and he brought so much to the table, and a lot of the ideas, like I listened to it this week because I knew we were doing this, and when I was listening to it, I was amazed at just how much of it was Gordon's idea rather than mine. Do you know what I mean? So it was definitely it was a much less stressful experience, even though it was condensed into such a short space of time. It was really, really great working with Gordon, because I was used to really having to work the engineer hard to get what I wanted, but this time I didn't have to do that at all.
It makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
I mean, it just sounds like, Jason, when I'm just going to go back to when you done your first album at Wash House.
Fuck me.
I mean, I remember, 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning road trips to Crawford John or back for Crawford John.
We went.
Oh,
we
yeah.
Went back. We went back to record. Well, we recorded up there, man. We recorded like 5 tracks in a weekend, right? It was like, fucking hell, man. Like, just batted them out. Then I came away and stuck the CD in the motor and I made the notes. I was like, fuck all. like, yeah, he's like, no, I still need to do a mix. So we went back up to get a mix. And I love the board night to bits. But like, he's like, oh, so we turns up at his house. It's like me and Campbell. And it's like a Tuesday night. We turned up at his house. He's like, where's the... Because we had the rights. The first album was pretty much a baby session with the music as a byproduct, right? So we've turned up on Tuesday night to do a mix. He's like, where's the beers, boys? We're like, oh, we're just here to get it mixed. He's like, oh, no, I'm not happy about this. So I had to go to the shop to get a material and then go back. And it was like, we left here at like 4 in the morning. I was working Wednesday morning. And I was still just wasn't happy with it. But I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm not getting back.
I remember coming back down the road at the time, man. It was like crazy o'clock. We were up for work in the morning and that.
Oh,
and it was just mental.
But now I listen to it and I'm like, I'm the same as you. I listened to our first album and I'm like, fuck, I wish I'd just sent that away somewhere and get it mixed and mastered properly.
There's still some decent stuff in there, and that's maybe been overcritical. Sometimes I think your first album, when it's done, like any band's first album, when it's done in the bedroom or like done kind of at a budget that you've got, you get some right raw cracking tunes, and then obviously when you get more money and more successful, you always look back and go, listen to that. But some of the tunes were like your Weekend Rockstars are a great tune, but also a massive on a producer giving like just a different opinion. I quite like that. Like not too much, but you dig if you've got a good producer, especially that's a good musician as well. They can hear things and bring in wee sounds in that. It's like when we get our I was writing songs at 5-6 minutes long, like stories, and he's like, "No, cut them down. Like, cut the songs in half." And I was like, "No, don't do that." But then when you listen back, you're like, "Nah, you're pretty much spot on," because your producer was like that. See, nowadays, you're not wanting 6-7 minute long songs. You need something to catch somebody straight away, and then it helps you with your writing as well. But what we'll do is we'll go straight into the album, and then just going through it, we'll talk about the album cover and the track listings. But let's get straight into it. Song number 1 in the album, which is we were talking earlier about the song that Tennant's picked up, and it was in the promo video. This is the one, and this is We First Met. So we'll play it, and then Ian can tell us a wee bit about this song. Here we go.
Oh, can you remember riding down the beach, our feet got wet? Oh, can you remember back upon the days when we first met? Oh, can you remember riding down the beach, our feet got wet? Oh, can you remember back upon the...
Tremendous. So a great start to the album. Ian, We First Met. Tell us a wee bit about this one.
Well, this was basically, it came out. Sometimes I'll write a song, I'll demo it, and I'll bring it into the band to rehearse before recording it. But this one was basically written from scratch in a rehearsal with the 4 of us, and I just basically I said I knew what kind of beat I wanted. I knew what the album was missing. I knew it was a song a song like that with that tempo. So I just said to the drummer to keep playing that tempo, and then the chords that Mick plays on the piano, I initially started playing them on a guitar, and then Mick had the arpeggio sounds going, that kind of so he had that going, and then I said, right, just keep that going, and then play these chords on the Wurlitzer, and then it was just born out of a kind of jam session with all 4 of us, and that's basically I think that's the only song on the album that was written like that. A few in the first album were kind of written like that, but I always find that these are the songs that end up being too long, the ones that are born out of jam sessions, because you don't realise how long they are until you go into record them. You're like, fuck, that's 5.5 minutes.
Aye.
So true, man.
In my head, it was like a fucking 3-minute perfect pop single, and then once we get to record it, it's fucking 6 minutes. Do you know what I mean? So, but no, I mean, I think when it came to recording it, I remember Gordon had kind of done a mix before we went to mix it, and I remember he had that drum sound, and I think he said, that David Bowie song, that David Bowie album, Low. So the first song on Low, which I can't remember what it's called, but it's got that kind of no. I think it might be instrumental, but he uses that drum sound, which is like a harmonizer, which can like lower the pitch of the drums, and it was like Tony Visconti brought it in. It was like a kind of revolutionary machine at the time. So he said, I've kind of went for that kind of
Speed of Life.
Yeah. And so he said, I've kind of went for that David Bowie Berlin drum sound. And so I was like, fucking hell, that's great. Like, cause I had my own ideas for the drums, but then he was like, well, listen to this first. And I was like, no, that's better than what I was thinking of. I definitely.
It's amazing that.
And then we kind of put loads of synths on it. I quite like the it's called Portamento at the end, but it's like the kind of siren sound when it goes woo, like that. And so they were kind of added right at the end, and it's just kind of retouches like that kind of make the difference between like a demo and like a releasable track. Do you know?
You can hear this song like being a demo and on the guitar and been catchy and like been happy with it, been really happy with it. That's going to be good. But to be different, it's adding these things in. Andy, what did you think of we first met?
I've just got one thing to say, anybody that's listening just now or going to listen back, go and listen to this album. This track is a big opening track. It's probably one of the best opening tracks for an album in a long time. Do you know what I mean? Usually you get that kind of slow start to an album. This goes straight into it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Like some albums are like...
No foreplay in this album.
No.
I mean, it's for me, I'm going to talk about the whole album in general just now. The whole album in general, there's always, like we talk about, like tracks that you would pass on, but the way this album flows, the way it is done, and all the songs on it, there's not a track that you would skip because you're always going to miss something. There's always something.
And also, I get that as well. I also, sometimes in a first album, like our first album will be different genres going on there. Whereas this album pretty much has got the same kind of feel going through it.
Yeah.
There's a wee deviation for it in the middle.
Just a wee bit. But I still think it's...
I was a big fan of the deviation.
So Andy, you're the first to give a score. What was your score for we first met?
I'm going to say I'm a 9, mate.
Tremendous.
Fucking right. Man.
Tremendous track, honestly.
Right, the public, with the 3 score, the public gave this a 7. Skimmer, what about yourself?
I was straight in with a 9 as well.
Wow.
I was. I said that it's fucking straight away. Strong start. Love the piano in it. And then just when the drums and the bass kick in, it just sets the tempo of the song right through. I just thought it was a great start. And I was only like halfway through that track and I texted you saying, this album, I text you this album's going to be a fucking belter.
Yeah.
I was only like halfway through that track. So,
aye. Yeah, I get what you said. It does. I mean, this is our 45th album we've listened to, so I think me and you, Andy, anyway, have got a good idea of what we've heard. Like starting albums, and you do sometimes get like kind of right musal starts that'll just come in. This just bang straight in, and that's what I've wrote. I've wrote a great start. The chorus is really, really catchy. The keys sound at the start. That's a great lick. That what was it you called that? An arpeggio.
Arpeggio.
Really cool. So we always talk about that, like getting a great lick in the song. But for me, it's the chorus. Like, it's the chorus that just catches me in this song. Oh, when you remember. And then in 3 minutes in, the guitar. Is it a guitar? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
No, it definitely is. Aye.
That tone's amazing because you get that guitar tone, and then you're playing it, and then it goes away, and it drops into this wee cool bit, and then the guitar comes back in, and then you finish with the chorus. And although you're saying that the song's longer than you thought, it's wee things like that like if Adrian was on this and he's seen it was like a 5 minute odd song, he'd straight away start with a 5 and then try and work out. He hates songs more than 3 minutes, but a longer song's good when there's things happening in it.
Aye, there's
So
stuff
for
going on.
me, I gave it an 8 out of 10, and
I just think
score is.
the other thing is, when you listen to this track, even when you stop listening to it, even if you were to just listen to that track and stop listening to it, you would still have the keys in your head all the time.
And
It is
I
constant,
listened to it.
and it's brilliant. You know, it's not a
I
bad
listened to it in
thing.
the car first, right? And then I listened to it through the headphones, and there was like extra bits that you hear,
Yeah.
cans, and that shows you what I was saying, the quality and the production of the whole
Aye,
album. To be fair,
It's definitely a Beats headphones
100%.
album. And
Oh, thanks, lads. Man. It's really nice of you.
right, so
And if beats
I mean,
are
that's a
watching,
great
we'll
start.
take 4 sets. Aye.
great start. 8.25 out of 10 to start the album off. So that's brilliant.
Strong start, hey.
Okay, let's go to number 2. We've heard it.
Number 2.
Getaway, number 2. Getaway Driver.
Everybody needs a getaway driver. Everybody needs a getaway.
Will you still want me when I'm gone?
Brilliant. So we played that. We played the video for that. Ian, Getaway Driver. Tell us a wee bit about this one.
So that was written in my house, and it was. I remember it was a Friday night because it was very rarely that I wasn't out beviing on a Friday night at that point. So it was a Friday night, and I wasn't out, and I just thought, right, I'm going to get the guitar out. I bought this wee travel guitar, like it's a kind of mini acoustic thing, and it looks a bit ridiculous. But the sound of it is great, like really kind of brilliant. Like it's a sound all of its own, and so I kind of started playing around with that, and then recorded the demo in one night, basically just the acoustic, put a bit of bass down, and then the kind of the slide guitar. So I just kind of had that, and I sang over it, and then. Yeah, I think that was maybe the second song we recorded for the album. And initially we went that weekend. We recorded 2. We recorded "Change My Mind" and we recorded "Getaway Driver." Now, "Change My Mind" we'd been playing live for a while, and we thought that was like the tune we were most excited about. But once we actually recorded "Getaway Driver," we were like, "Oh no, hold on a minute! Like, let's release this one first." It was more instant, and actually with "Change My Mind," we'll talk later on, we actually had a few problems with that. So but "Getaway Driver," when it was finished, it was like, oh wow, this is actually hearing it now, it's like it's much better than we all thought it was, do you know?
Yeah.
So aye.
Brilliant. So that's a slide guitar, that sound.
Aye,
Yes. It's an octave. It's an octave pedal as well. So so it's an octave pedal and a side guitar. Took me fucking ages. See, I remember recording the demo. Took me fucking ages to get that right. Like hours, man. Most of that night was probably just on that slide.
I can imagine.
See, I can imagine in this album with you, Andy, you're working a technical buff. You can all you use that are right into your music. I find it amazing that just listening to a song you can with key chords getting played and all that. But I can imagine you in this, Andy, listen to some of the sounds in this, you'll be like, wow, amazing.
It sounds like produced. I mean, as you know, like the guitar sounds you get are just like I was actually saying. Like I was listening to it and I had it on my speakers and my PC and everything like that. And I've had it on the car. I've had it on my speakers with PC. I've had it on the headphones. I've had it on the Sonos. I've had it on everything. I think and you always hear something different.
Sounds different, aye, yeah.
But I was letting the guitar tones. I was letting Tony hear some, and he's like, they sound brilliant. You know, they sound really, really good. And he's a right big one for big guitar tones and things like that. But that slide on that guitar just adds something different. I love a slide. I don't know what it is.
It's like We First Met. It's
that
like
and
We
a lap
First Met's get that. It's like you've got an instrument there that's kind of becoming a star of the song. Like We First Met, you had that wee bit, and then the slide.
Aye, it's funny you say about guitar sounds here because when we first went in and recorded with Gordy, and I was bringing in my amp and all that, and he's like, "Mate, what you doing?" I was like, "Bringing in my amp." He's like, "Mate, nobody uses real guitar amps anymore. It's all plugins."
I know, like,
and I was like, "Not on my fucking album. It's not all right." And
it's like Tony. He uses one called Kajira.
Aye.
Is it Parallax?
Aye. So he's like, look, mate. I can dial up any amp sound in the whole fucking world with that, and it will sound just the same. And I was like, well, look, mate, I want to use a real guitar amp. Do you know what I mean? He's like, right. He said, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll take a DI straight from the guitar, and then we'll also mic up the amp. And so what he actually did was, I know he did it. I think he did it with this, and I think he did it with We First Met as well. He basically, and he would really just do it to kind of prove to me that it could be done. But he would basically, once I'd got my sound dialed up and we'd recorded it, he would then take the DI, recording of the DI, and he would basically try and dial in the same sound. And to basically show me how easy it was and to show me how similar they sounded. But what he ended up doing was he ended up using them both, and he panned one to each side. So if on so I think that's what he done here. So I mean he says, well, I still think they're slightly different, but it's something that he came forward with that I wouldn't have done. Do you know what I mean? And it's just it shows you how big an influence he had on the album, and it wasn't just me and the band, you know.
It's amazing now how much you can do digitally, though, isn't it?
Aye.
It's just like phenomenal, and you know, you get all these sounds, and you can get all these. As you said, you can dial in any amp tone you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even through pedals, you can get amp simulators that sound just as good as what the actual amps do.
And you get the purists. You get the purists who say, "Oh no, that's evil. That's that." But the thing is, right? See, fucking Robert Plant and Jimi Hendrix. Do you think if that technology had been available, they would have fucking used that?
100%.
Everyone uses who, whether it's in the 1920s, the 1960s, the 1980s, or whatever. Everyone used the best and the most up-to-date technology that was there at the time. So these people who want to like I mean, and I love the Laz, right? And Lee Mavers is one of the greatest songwriters ever. But like the way he was about like is all his equipment and how he wouldn't use anything that wasn't from the 60s. It was like, mate, the guys that you admire, that's like the guys that you admire were that's like them saying, that's what the Beatles saying. We only want to use these microphones for the 1930s. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? So when people say, "Oh, I only want to record analog," and it's like, well, mate, charge on, but it's going to cost you 3 times the price.
Aye. Right. It's unbelievable.
Andy, what did you give Getaway Driver?
I give it an 8. It's still an excellent song. It's strong. It comes after We First Met, which I think is brilliant. But again, what a strong song. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's that hook. But I do want the reason I chose that section of the track is I can't remember the name of the female vocalist again. It is on the album.
Joni Bennett. Yeah.
Amazing. What a voice, by the way.
Yeah, that was that was the first time she sang anything, anywhere.
But
yeah, so
so
she so she basically came in and did it and was really nervous and just kind of did it, you know. So, and she did it. She did it with us at Buttefest. That when we played with yous at Buttefest.
I must have been for a pitch at that point.
Aye.
I genuinely didn't see it.
I thought it was just absolutely fractured at that point.
Both.
But she took a lot of persuading, and I thought once she does it live once, she'll just want to do it all the time. But no, actually, she said, "I'm never doing that again."
That was a big introduction. To be fair, you think you'd want to ease her in, maybe.
I know.
Straight on the main stage at
So-
a festival.
So she's I'm never doing that again. So what you hear on the record is what is the only time you're going to hear it.
The other thing I got as well was what I like to do as well. Obviously I've heard the album before, right? But then I've listened to the album, but never paid attention to any of the song titles, right? And I don't mean that in any bad way or anything like that. So what I did was look at all the song titles and picture in my head what that song's going to sound like.
Oh,
And
I know what you mean.
Getaway Driver to me was going to be kind of a fast pace something, but then I listened to it and I'm like, no, it's more about escape for something, like as in not an escape from what you've just robbed a bank. Let's get out of here. Like an escape. Let's drive down the coast and just get away from everything, you know. And it's got that sound about it.
Yeah,
Do you know
it's
what I
spot
mean?
on, man. No, it is. It's more a metaphor for people in your life who you can rely on to kind of help you out of bad situations.
Yeah,
Do
I
you know
got
what I mean?
that.
That's kind of what it's about. Yeah.
Totally got that. And for me to do that is a powerful thing. You know, it's but no, spot on track again, mate. Honestly.
Oh, cheers. Thanks, man.
Skimmer, yourself?
I gave it an 8.
An 8.
Aye, great catchy tune. Just I get like Andy. It's like you think of the title, right? It's Getaway Driver, but it's like when you listen to the song, it's like you can imagine driving with the roof down in a convertible motor away, like just fucking getting away for the weekend sort of thing, like away from your mundane, boring shit and just going into a happy place.
It's a visual song, isn't it? It's definitely a visual song.
And your getaway driver just being your best mate or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Just getting away from the shit, getting away from the rat race and going away to a happy place, man. That's what kind of gave me that vibe, man. I said that to you. I feel like I want to tie my sweater around my neck.
Get a fly scarf on.
Somewhere, you know what I mean?
I think, and it goes well with the. I was talking earlier about the album. So you've got the album cover with the yacht and the kind of. I think we spoke about it when you were doing the Iggy Pop album, the kind of yacht rock type thing, so getting into the 80s, and it's just like it is a totally visual song, like quite a few of them where it's like driving. It's like driving to the harbour or the docks, and just like kind of on a sunny day. It's got that kind of roof down in one of the coastal roads in LA where there's only about that bit of road and then it's like a cliff kind of thing. Came one of the it's got that's in my head.
Wait for our sunglasses on, your sweater tied.
Yeah.
You were talking, I picked up the acoustic sound going through this, the acoustic guitar. I really picked that up. It's a nice, I love a really nice. You said brilliant sound. That is it. I love a brilliant acoustic sound. Like presence. It's really difficult to get. You know.
In fact, do you know? It's in the next room, but I have 2 seconds. I'll grab it.
I know about that. Go and get it. I saw that the vocal's brilliant on the song. I really do like the vocal. And that there's a wee lick again pre-chorus, and that lick is what we're talking about with the kind of slide guitar on that. So I gave this song Getaway Driver a 7.5 out of 10, and the public gave it a 7. So a 7.5 for me, and the public gave it a 7, and we'll see what the score is for Getaway Driver. 7.63. So excellent. So Ian's he's a way to get is the actual guitar that he used for this, which is a travel guitar. You seen one of them before, Andy? Just basically like a guitar, but weird, but bigger than a
It's a
ukulele.
guitar with
No, but
wheels
they've
on
got
it.
wee bodies as well. They're
What was
weird.
that, Skimmer? What did you
It's
say
a
there?
guitar with wheels on it.
Aye. You can sit on it. It's like one of these scooter cases.
Like, they need suitcases.
You need to see it. Honestly, the body's tiny on them.
Aye, that's
Sorry,
aye.
I've just moved house, man. So, but this is it here. So as you can see, it's tiny. Like if you look at it in context of me, like if I sit down with it, really small.
But you just look like Ed Sheeran.
I know. Well, this is the danger. This is why these recording sessions were not filmed.
Just to let you know, Ian, Getaway Driver 7.63. I gave it a 7.5.
Oh, nice one. Nice one.
The public gave it a 7, so 7.63.
Oh, nice one.
10. And it's quite good to see one of the main instruments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of, it's almost like it's a specific sound. It's like a kind of, it's almost like slightly tinny. It's almost like it's a compressed acoustic sound. That's the natural sound you get off it. Do you know what I mean? So it sounded great. Like I bought it off. I actually bought it off a guy called Raymond Mead. Who
Ocean Carlson.
he does now. Yeah. So he's been a mate for years, and I actually bought it off him a couple of years ago, and that was the kind of first song. That was the kind of first time I kind of played the guitar properly. I kind of came up with that, you know. So paid for itself, really.
So is that guitar in any other songs?
It's on Autumn and Blues.
Yes, right.
Right, I love that.
Right, we'll
one.
talk about that.
We'll
And
get
it's
to that
on
one.
and it's on the one after that as well. Now in the Desert. And then I think it was Gordon's acoustic I used for the closing track, so it's not on that. But it's on 3 tracks, I think.
Wow.
Aye.
Yeah, that's the right. Aye, because it's got a definite sound. I think I mentioned it in Autumn and Blues as well, which we'll come to.
Yeah.
So 7.63. So we first
nice
met.
one.
Good start to the album.
This is going to be. I think this is going to be outrageously high. This album.
I think it will be.
It's going well. You've got Colin Mustard and DJ on 5 to beat, so you need to see if you can beat that. Okay, what am I doing here? Yes, guys. Song number 3. This is called Back on Board. You already know. I think I had this song in the Pelikan for about 3 times just to hear it.
Oh, it's amazing.
But honestly,
Let's just play it.
Let's play it.
With the sun on my back and the wind in my face. When the last one before we head home is the saving grace. 'Cause my feet are getting colder. There's a devil on my shoulder, and it's you that's keeping me afloat. Take my hand and pull me back on home. See the man in frames high above the door.
By the way, can I just say I did put it up earlier, right?
Look at that,
But
man.
guys,
Every time I hear it.
There's a Spotify link to the album. All right. Which is on. All right. It is also available on other
But see
platforms.
now, I've actually stopped saying that to folk, Andy, because see folk are into music and they don't know where to fucking get it for. Honestly, man, there's real, do you know what I mean?
I'm just trying to make it
see
as
the amount
easy
of times
accessible.
you're- I know, do you know the amount of times, like in this day and age, you're like that to folk, like follow them on this, that, and you're just like that, just search the fucking name and you'll find them, do you know what I mean? Like, because I've even started saying that for wherever you get your downloads from. Anyway, can we talk about this first and then you tell us about it? Because we'll do it this way first. So let me see what the public gave this. So this is 3 folk that don't know the band or anything. And their scores is 8.5 out of 10. So this is usually the public. I've never usually the highest to score some 7.5, but 8.5 out of 10. Skimmer, will come to you first in this. What did you
I
give
gave
it?
it a 10.
What?
I gave it a 10, right? And it was a 9.5, but I upped it when I listened to it through the headphones and I heard the use of the cowbell in it. And I was like, fucking yes. I love a cowbell flung in it a tune. So I was like, that's going up to a 10 just for that.
Oh, mate.
But seriously, it's a fucking great song.
Ah,
I mean, it's such a strong start to the album. I'm not saying the end's bad or anything like that, but I was like, I was totally fucking gripped by it halfway through the first tune. And then the second tune, I was like, fuck, that's another great tune. And then it just went up a level with this one.
Aye. This is positioned brilliantly in the album.
Perfect.
Like,
It's I always think, when I think back to some of my favourite albums through the times and that, the third track in the album's always a fucking topper.
Live Forever.
I just think
I Live Forever, yeah.
As I say, it was a 9.5, but the cowbell, when I listened to it through the cans, I was like, fucking yes, that's a 10 now.
Andy?
Oh, thanks, mate.
10 all day long. It's an absolute belter of a track. It's feel good. It's just got everything. It's hard to explain. I just want everyone to go and listen to it and then come back to me and say.
Explain it. You don't need to explain it. Just fucking listen to it. Then
it's just go and listen. If you don't listen to the full album, go and listen to this track. All right, this track is the complete track. A feel-good song, driving. You've already got an attention for the first two tracks, but holy shit, you've even got more of my attention now again. Do you know what I mean? Which didn't think possible. And think, wow. And it's just such a big sound. It's got everything in there. And who's the bass player again?
Mark McCallum. Yep.
He drives this track as well.
Oh,
really
yeah,
well.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's really without being overcomplicated though.
Yeah,
everything goes well, and even the wee riffs after that, after each basic line of the chorus, the wee bit, the do just going down all the time.
The glockenspiel.
Amazing, amazing. 10 all day long. I mean,
thanks, man.
Tremendous.
Yeah, it's although I'm a fan of the band, and so show what you're made of. I'm like, that's a tune. They'll never beat that. And Back on Board was, I think, Getaway Driver was the kind of first tune I heard of this. And don't get me wrong, it took me a while to get into the essence of Getaway Driver, and it was because Back on Board, I think, came out straight after it, and then I was totally hooked in this tune. It's no only probably my favourite song of this album. This is one of my favourite tunes ever. I play it all the time. It's my playlist. Wait, I'll just tell you right now. I even play this while DJing. There you go. I DJ this tune.
You never played it at the wedding I was at on Sunday, Scott?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
So remember,
it was the same song I played. It was the same song I played.
Remember in PRS all the way, mate. You want on the list of venues.
Well, I bought it, so he's got his PRS.
Oh, right, okay.
I love how the start hangs. So the kind of you're going for Getaway Driver into Back on Board, and it's just kind of sitting nicely, and then the Glock comes in. Do 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 do. The verse melody is brilliant. You've got that kind of. You've got that kind of tone in your voice where you're just about to go. It's a very hard song to sing, right? Especially with your tone of your voice as well. It's a hard song to cover. Dying to cover it though. We definitely will one day. But amazing, I need to be able to sing it because at the same key. I don't want to drop it or anything. I want to get it.
Listen, I think by the time we get back to playing gigs, I'll be fucking dropping the key. So don't worry about that.
And it's got the album title in it as well.
Yes,
I quite like all that kind of stuff. And you said it earlier, Andy. It's a driving tune. It's on my 4 tunes when I'm coming home from work on a Friday that I play. I play Night Train by Guns N' Roses. I play Back on Board. I play Balance Not Symmetry by Biffy Clyro, and I play Stay Young by Oasis. And that's my 4 tunes getting me down the road on a Friday for right. I'm ready for the weekend. 10 out of 10 all day long.
Thanks very much.
Fucking hell, clean sweep.
Jesus.
So back on board in the Pelikan podcast is a 9.63. So that's an average. That's an average of seven votes. No,
Can I just say as well?
no, six.
I mean,
That's
well, me Scott were just talking earlier, and we're talking about this. I gave this album to my wife to listen to as well, and she came up with a really strange thing, right? I don't know because I never really listened to it, but she got notes of the Killers, but then more notes of what Brandon Flowers done himself.
Right,
So she
okay.
get that, but she really enjoyed it, and it's not something that generally she would listen to, but she loved the way it was that it had that kind of vibe, and when Brandon Flowers went himself, he had quite a cool vibe as well.
Do you know that's
she
been
was,
said?
she was right into it.
The Killers comparison has been made before, a couple of times actually, and it's not. They're not. I mean, they're not one of my favourite bands. But I'll tell you what, the last album they put out, which I think was last year, and they got the same producer as the War on Drugs, and it basically.
They're a good band.
I think he's just went to the guy and went like, "Gonna just do what you done for the War on Drugs, mate." but there's some great tunes on it, but they've totally lifted the sound. But the Killers has been said to us a few times, and I listen. It's everyone gets different things from it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's maybe the synths that are maybe remind people of the Killers. You know.
I think
song-
that's what's dragging people to the 80s sort of vibe about it anyway, certainly, isn't it?
Aye.
That's what I said to you. It was like almost like a Stranger Things soundtrack, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Kinda
shout, Skimmer.
gave me that kind of vibe, you know, with the sort of synth poppy bit about it.
Tell us a bit back on board then. Tell
So
us about that tune.
it was the first song we recorded for the album. It was the first song we wrote. So basically, Mark and Phobo had been in the band for a while, but because they'd just come straight in and we started gigging, we hadn't actually had the chance to work on any new material with them. So as soon as that summer was finished and we had a bit of downtime, after we'd kind of done all our summer festivals, I kind of wrote this. And again, I just kind of demoed it on my own in the house, and then I didn't have bass on it, so Mark came in, and what he played on the demo is pretty much what he played on the actual recording as well. And you're right, the bass playing is fucking unbelievable on it. I think
So it drives it. It drives the tune.
yeah, absolutely, and
But there is chances in there that he could overplay,
yeah.
but he doesn't. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he picks his moments, and that's a sign of a really fucking good musician. I think not just playing bass, but playing anything. Like even if you can play, even if you're the most amazing musician in the world, that doesn't give you the right to fucking do it for the whole song. And the best musicians are not the best,
John Squires.
technically. They're the guys that know when to fucking back off and when to pick their moments. Do you know? And that's what Mark does brilliantly in everything he does.
John Squires, for example.
Aye, yeah. Especially on the second album, John Squire. I mean, he didn't know when to back off, did he?
No. Terrible, man.
I walked away from the Stone Roses gig at T in the Park because of the guitar solos at the end. I mean, he even nearly took our Champagne Supernova at blooming
Nebworth.
as well.
Yeah, no, he did. And I think if you've ever heard any of the live bootlegs from when they were touring Second Coming, I mean, the guitar is basically all you can hear. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous, you know. And it's no wonder people started drifting away from them around about that time. And by the time they split up, nobody cared. That's the thing about the Stone Roses. Like, see, by the time they split up, Oasis had taken over. Nobody gave a fuck when the Stone Roses split up in '96. Nobody cared. That's a fact.
Remember, Jason, we were sitting in Baker's at the time. You had just finished playing, and Rick Whittle was on doing a set. And we were talking to Rick Whittle, and this was something he was talking about. Was
wait till I check if I can say this. We were lawyers. You're going to slander somebody here?
No.
Right,
But he was saying that when the Seahorses for that he'd heard all these songs, but about like X amount of years earlier because they were getting bust in the street.
That's
By
right.
him.
Aye.
But then when Joy Squires come in, he used to go and write this ridiculous solo, go out and get absolutely mad with it, wake up in the morning, still think it was a good idea. Do you know what I
Aye.
mean?
Is that what I pretty much said that fucking John Squire ruined Chris Helm's songs?
Aye.
That was pretty much what he was saying.
He did, aye, basically.
Anyway, well, back on board, 9.63 out of 10.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
What are you thinking lyrically when you're writing that? How did?
So I guess it's about kind of the way you feel on a Sunday morning when you've been out all weekend, and you kind of think, what the fuck? What was the fucking point of that? Do you know what I mean? And basically asking yourself why you keep doing it. So that was kind of, and then kind of looking for someone to kind of pull you out of it on a Sunday morning, give you a cuddle. Do you know what I mean?
And then that's the chorus. That's you get back on board the chorus, and then that kind of waking up on a Sunday morning's the start. That kind of fuck.
It's funny
it,
that,
let's
because
get it.
I would
Amazing.
love to write a song about that, but I get it, Leslie's toughen up, you wee prick.
And that's what we all get in it.
Number 4. This is where we get into the sounds. These next few tunes, the sounds of this album. Number 4, Bad Luck Bird.
They know the angles when the cameras roll away, and we can try look up, ask them where to sign up. Well, the bad luck is a burden, but the forecast doesn't change. Another rain might be for certain. We can smile right through the days, and if you can't look out the window for a fear of what it brings.
Wow, I'm so glad you played that bit, Andy. That wee clip there. It's a song that goes. So I say this all the time. If you get the instrumental of that song and you think melody wise, where's it going, and you've went totally different to where you think it's going to go, just melody wise. I've put on there. The drums at the start said, "I got my eyes on you" for Drake. See, like the Drake tune.
I've never
listen
heard
to
it.
that. The drums.
They wanna.
No, it's a brilliant tune. Drake, I Got My Eyes on You. Arctic Monkeys covered it. It's such a good song. You'll love it, Ian.
Right.
Drake, I'm not a Drake fan, but I Got My Eyes on You with Drake. Just the kind of the drums at the start, just the way that song.
It's a drum machine at the start, and then the real drums come in with the bass.
Yeah,
That'll be why I take it that Drake's a rapper, isn't he? So he'll be playing to a drum machine or singing to a drum machine. Like
well, it's a good, but it's a good beat. I like that. I also wrote the structure of this song's great because it builds. It's a building song, and it's built with different sounds coming in. The female vocalist again, and this is the tune where. So I'm seeing the yacht. You're thinking yacht rock. This is definitely the one. This is definitely the tune that takes me back to that kind of 80s kind of vibe. This is your Sergio, whatever your fucking Ticini hero and all that. And yeah. Do you know what I mean? This is the like visual tunes, visual songs. It's like it's really hard to do. It's no like I love you, you love me, and all that kind of stuff. It's like it's visually. Getting you. So 8 out of 10 for me, Andy. And then we'll see what Ian's telling us about the tune.
Was it Wurlitzer in the background, wasn't it, on this?
Yeah, there's a few different synths, and then he's put the Wurlitzer in as well. Just for a bit of an old school vibe.
But it comes straight out. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something about that sound that's just nostalgic with 80s and even before that music, and it's great. It's amazing. Love it.
Nice one, man.
You know, again, like I don't know how you've done it, right? But you've written track after track of absolute belting tunes.
It's like catchy. There's catchy bits in them, aren't there?
And in this one, there's loads of different wee sounds to pick out. But I think, again, your bass player doesn't overplay it. Simple, right on point, right in the pocket. Doesn't matter. Like that's
and the drummer's the same, because I've been in bands with drummers who are basically frontmen trapped in drummers' bodies and always want to do the big John Bonham stuff and Keith Moon the fuck out it. But a good drummer, like any good musician, will play to the song. Do you know what I mean? And not for themselves.
Do you think what helped that though was with they two being in what
your
rhythm section?
Yeah.
You know, would they two always be in a rhythm section? Do you think that helped a lot?
Oh yeah, so obviously, so they'd played in the band before, and so, it definitely helped because they knew each other already, and they already liked each other, and they already liked playing with each other, and so when they came into us, I mean, we honestly, me and Mick thought we'd won the lottery, because we went from thinking that we were going to basically jack in the band and not even get to put out this album that we'd already done. And then we went from that to like stumbling upon the best rhythm section we'd ever had.
Because
so
sometimes
it was like we won a watch, man, no doubt about it.
Because sometimes when you get in, you know, like when you start to form bands, it takes a wee while for the drummer to play off the bass player and things like that. But when you've got that already there, then it's brilliant. It works really well.
Sorry, Andy. Yeah.
Sorry, Scott. All right. I gave the track an 8, and I have belting track, mate. It's just phenomenal.
Thanks, mate.
What I was going to say there was I've not mentioned the drummer once in this, and that's because I've probably taken the drummer for granted that he just does his job really well in the whole album.
I think that's probably one of the best compliments you can maybe put there.
Absolutely.
Joe, as we're saying that, and I think that's where the band benefited from getting these two guys that have played together in quite successful bands before, that they know their value without overcompensating.
Well, for sure,
it fits in nicely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know the music. What about yourself, Skimmer, in this?
I gave it a 7. It was just like a nice steady track and sits good in the album. Loving the 80s vibes from it. It's catchy. Say that the start was mega strong for me, and it was just it's a 7. It's not as good as the tracks before, but sitting good in the album.
Yeah, and the public gave it a 7 as well. So we've all said 80s. Ian, is that what you were looking for with this song? Tell us a bit about this. Bad Luck.
I guess so. I mean, this one was written when we were right up against it time-wise, and we needed more songs, and I had a few ideas kicking about, but I kind of wrote this one from scratch pretty quickly, just in my house one night, and I'd bought this drum machine. It's the Roland 909. It's quite a famous drum machine, but it's mostly used for a lot of techno. So like a lot of techno tracks, that's the drum machine that we've used. And then I bought a wee Roland JP08 synth, and so that's what makes up a lot of the synth sounds that are on it. And then so I did the demo for it, and then obviously again took it into the guys, and then I think we recorded it like 3 days later, and the girl who sings on it is a girl called Jess Houghton. So she's from Ayrshire as well. A lot of Ayrshire connections with this album.
That's why we like it.
Yeah. So she basically, I sang that bit initially, and I was just planning that to be a guide vocal for when we got a girl singing in. And then, but Gordon was kind of like, oh no, man, I think it sounds quite good with you doing it. And I was like, well, no. And then we kind of had a bit of the closest thing we ever had to an argument, probably. And then he was like, well, look, I know this girl Jess, because I think he'd played with her. He'd played with her in a band, and he said she lives local, but she couldn't get there till like 11 o'clock at night. So I've still never actually met her. I went home, and I came in the next day, and he was like, Jess came and did it in her pajamas in one take. Do you want to hear it? And I was like, fucking hell, man, like absolutely blew us away. But she's a total pro. I mean, she's like, incredible singer, has been a lot of experience. I think she plays guitar. I think she plays everything. Actually, I think she plays guitar, bass, drums, everything. So I've never met her, but I know that she's an extremely accomplished and talented musician. So yeah, she did it in one take, and then I came in and heard it the next day, and I was like, "Fuck, that's just lifted that song. That's just made it like 10 times the song it was." You know.
Excellent. That's a good week and a bit, innit? The singer came with the jammies on at 11 o'clock at night and then hit you with that. It does fit in brilliant. It fits in amazing. So I've been doing a lot of instruments tonight, and
I've been kind of getting.
I've got a Roland 919, a JP08 synth as well.
No, I was getting a kind of New Order type kind of vibe off it for some reason, which was really cool. But it takes you back.
What's your electro kind of vibe, Ian? Where's your influence for that? You brought on Iggy Pop, so
I know.
I can imagine you like your Bozoot rock kind of.
Oh yeah, no, I do.
So
I do.
What's your electric influence?
Well, New Order definitely are one. Like, I think the first time I heard New Order was probably the first time I heard Iggy Pop, and it was on that Trainspotting soundtrack. Which I bought when I was like 11, I think, before I'd even seen the film. But to try and show off how cool I was, I bought the soundtrack because I couldn't get in to see the film, and then just told everyone, "Oh, I've seen the film." Aye. So New Order definitely. What else? OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Really like a lot of this, and again, it's not with a lot of these bands from the 80s, especially the British ones. It's everybody knows this. Everybody knows the hits, which can be thought of as, which are quite throwaway when you listen to them. But when you get into these guys' albums and you go kind of deep on them, that's when you really dig out the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I get what they're doing. They were basically writing the hits to please the record company so they could just do what they wanted for the rest of the album. And it was like, as long as you gave, I think the guy said, I saw a dog, was it that Synth Britannia, the thing on BBC 4, and he was like, basically, we knew we had to write these two throwaway pop novelty, whatever you want to call them, and then they would just they wouldn't care about the rest of the album, so we could do what we wanted. Do you know? So OMD, and then more modern stuff. LCD Sound System.
Brilliant.
I think that they're not it maybe doesn't come across in our music, but definitely a big influence in terms of being able to do that music with a traditional kind of band setup. Watching people who do it well, there's a lot of people who do it very badly, do you know? And then, I mean, the War on Drugs, who we were talking about earlier on, I mean, they are very synth heavy a lot of the time. So I mean everything really. Like there's a great German compilation called Deutsch Electronic Musik, and does what it's like the Ron Seal of krautrock, does what it says in the tin. But I remember getting that. One of my mates bought it, and it's on Soul Jazz Records, a compilation, and it's just a compilation of like German electronic music from like the mid-70s to the mid-80s, and some of the stuff on that is like unbelievable. Like some of it's like there's a track by a guy called Michael Bunt, and it's just 8 minutes of like it's like something out of a. My mate said it's like something out of a Japanese samurai movie. You know what I mean? And it's so cinematic. I think it's called Les Chasses aux Microbes from memory, and like this, and so a lot of the synth sounds on that was what we kind of tried to recreate this album. Like a lot of the string sounds, I really like this kind of string sounds, and then like the one we used on this track, the opening bit, the kind of almost like a kind of cheap electric piano kind of Casio sound almost, but you know, there's a time and a place for all of that, you know, and I'm still not as into the electronic music as I'd like to be, because there's just so much out there, and there's so, and you need to kind of go so deep. But
Did
I'm
Crash
glad we
Club
brought it
help
in.
you? Did singing with Crash Club give you ideas?
It did for sure, man. Because I mean, Sammy is like when you see what kind of Sammy's doing on stage, and then obviously like I went down to Sammy's house a few times to actually write with him as well, and he's just got all these synths and all this fucking gear in his shed out the back, and so it was seeing all that, and I kind of had a wee play about with it, and so playing with Crash Club was a big influence on it as well, I think, for sure.
Excellent.
I mean, one of the biggest ones for me was when I was growing up, my dad, he used to listen to a lot of Jean-Michel Jarre, which was massive. And I've seen him live as well.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's unbelievable. What that guy
Skimmer
does.
thought he played for Montpellier with Valderrama.
I signed him in Chat Manager 95.
Excellent. Right, okay,
I got him in a Bosman.
Song number 5, Change My Mind. Here we go.
So bye-bye. Nothing's gonna change my mind. No moving back and forth this time. Nothing's gonna change my mind. No moving back and forth this time. You ain't gonna break my stride. It's the making of a man.
It's just the tone. It's the tone of your voice, right? It changes at certain bits as like an instrument as well. You're one of the like we've heard loads of like your voice is the band, innit? Like the tone of your vocal is like.
It's definitely the sound.
It's when you.
It's synonymous with the band, isn't it?
That's it. Aye, that's the word I was looking for, Jason. Thanks very much.
It's the one instrument. It's the one instrument that you can't change the sound of, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. You can digitally.
Well,
you can.
You can now, aye.
Can now, aye.
I know about that. Right, Change My Mind. Ian, tell us a bit about this.
So this was the second song that we kind of we recorded for the album, and it was actually the first time we played it live was at the Barrowlands when we supported Colonel Mustard.
Nice.
And there's a good video from that actually that my mate took from the kind of bit at the back where you can stand on the kind of raised bit at the very back. So he took it from there. It's a really good video and it sounds good as well. But we've been playing it live for a while and we loved it and we thought it was kind of all kind of ready to go. But then when we went in to record it, we actually had some problems with it and I couldn't work out what was wrong, but it just didn't sound. It didn't sound right, and so we actually shelved it for a while. And then when we knew we were going to finish the album, when we knew we had the money to finish the album, we actually went and re-recorded the drums because see how the bass line and the sax, the first note comes in just before the first beat, so it's at 1, 2, so it's just before. Yeah. So he wasn't hitting. So on the choruses, he wasn't hitting that, and so it sounded disjointed, and it took us ages to work out what the problem was. So it was a real kind of. At one point, we thought about scrapping it because it just wasn't sounding good. And Gordon and the rest of the band couldn't work out what I was talking about. They couldn't hear it, but I knew that it wasn't right. So. But I'm glad we persevered with it, and there's still a few bass drums which I can hear that are out of place. But you can't have everything, But I still love it, I still love playing it live,
Yeah. So for me, this one, if I was ever to imagine like kind of yacht rock,
is that a thing, yacht rock, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's not go there. By the way,
is that a thing? I don't know.
Hall & Oates. You've heard of them? Hall & Oates. I played that. I played that at the wedding. I played that Hall & Oates tune at the wedding.
Ask me your wedding playlist with somebody, mate. I was fucking well gone.
Not too busy arguing with folk. It's so that bit at the start, and this is one of the songs that's visually listening to. It goes with the album, with the look of the album, and all that kind of that kind of thing. It fits in nice. I gave this one a 7.5. We'll go with Andy.
I don't know. Like, it's weird how you described that, Ian. Like, it's a nice funky tune. It's got a wee bit of the almost a kind of funk bass line going through it. You know, it's not, but there is certain bits that I thought, like,
Is anybody going to say Nile Rodgers or anything? I heard them.
I can hear that for the guitar. But
Oh yeah, the guitar was that was what the guitar was. That was what I was trying to do. The guitar, definitely.
Yeah,
Nile Rodgers all over it, man.
But I loved how you said there was, you know, those wee bits, and there's still probably wee bits that you hear. And I did hear a couple of wee bits, and I actually scored this one down because I didn't think it was as strong as your other tracks, but not in a bad way, because it was still a great tune, and it's still a great album song. And but I gave it a 7, just for that fact. I just thought there was something not quite right, but there was also one part missing, and I don't know. I can't put my finger on to what it is.
No, that'll be
still
it.
A good score,
That'll be
Andy.
it, definitely. It'll be because we even though we did re-record the drums, there was the thing about Phobo is, and I don't know if he'd be watching, but I'm sure he'd agree, and it's a good thing. He needs to know what's going on, so he needs to know in advance. He needs to be organised. So when he was re-recording the drums, I was like, no, actually, you need to do it like this. And he was like, but that's not how we rehearsed it. And I was like, I know, mate, but I've just heard it. I'm sorry, I'm springing it on you now. You need to put the bass drum there. And so he did it for some of it, but then there was other bits where he didn't. And I could feel that he was kind of panicking a wee bit. And I knew that it was kind of my fault because I'd not kind of ironed it out in rehearsal. So, I mean, we could have fit, you know, you can do it with Pro Tools these days, so we could have fixed it all, but, you know, as I said, we mixed it all in a week, and you know, it would have probably took up more time than it was worth. Do you know what I mean? To do that
for an album that was mixed in a week, there's not much. You know, what the hell? Hats off to you. You know what I mean?
No, we did pretty well, man. We did pretty well.
Yeah,
and that's really a testament to Gordy and how good he is, because I didn't touch the fucking console or the keyboard ever, but I was just there kind of telling him kind of what I wanted. But not only was Gordy really, really fast working, but he was also chipping in with ideas as well, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skimmer, yourself, changed my mind.
I gave it a 7.5. Again, it's solid track, sits nicely in the album. And then I'm thinking to myself, when we come on, because I've listened to it right the way through in the car, and then I listened to it right the way through in my headphones, and then when I come home from work tonight, I put it on the Sonos while I was making my dinner on that, and it was just playing in the background. And then when we came on the backstage bit on the podcast before it goes live, I was singing this, so it's obviously stuck in my head.
You were singing it,
when we come on. So I've maybe it's maybe a bit more catchy than I probably gave it credit for. My score,
7.5's a good score, by the way.
Aye, definitely.
But it's obviously stuck in my head because when we come on, I was singing the chorus.
Yeah.
So that's that. The public gave this one a 6.5. So you can see that as well. You've got the first tracks that have got very, very definite catchy choruses going in there, and Change My Mind, there's a lot going on in that as well, like for folk that are into their music, and that there's, as I say, really great structured song as well, Change My Mind. So that's a 7.13.
Still pretty good, isn't it?
Really good, yeah. So we first met, 8.25 or high 7s we Getaway Driver, and 9s, nearly a 10 out of 10 for Back on Board. Bad Luck Burden, 7.5, and 7.13 takes us on to the best named song in the album, in my opinion. This is Autumn Blues. I'll play that now when I get it. There it's here. it bugged me for weeks that there's a wee thing in this. There's a thing in this tune. You just heard it there, that kind of keyboard sound, that bassy keyboard sound, and I'm like, that's in a song that I love. That's in a song I love. And it took me forever to think it, and then just listening to it there, I got it. In Excess, there's a song called Freedom Deep, and that's the sound in it, and it's no as prevalent in this tune, but it's definitely it's the kind of main thing in that Freedom Deep, and it's the same sound. Ottoman Blues for me, I love this, and as I said, even the name's brilliant. I love instrumentals like this because it leaves you hanging. Like you're listening to that, and you're listening to that riff, and you're listening to everything getting in it, and then you're thinking, right, it's going to kick in now. It's going to kick in. Then 1 minute, then 1 minute 50, it kicks in, and you can just imagine. I'm going to say it's got that fucking in the bushes hang about it. This is definitely going to be a song that the band. He's got to walk onto this, surely. Is this what he's walk onto?
No, well, we've not the chance to. Walk on anywhere.
Maybe it's only a year old.
I suggest he's walk onto this.
Well, when we did that live stream gig, we talked about that. But then, as we'll hear later on, there's two tunes that kind of seg into each other. So we thought so we decided that's how we were going to do it. Have the first one playing and then walk on to the second one and kind of play it in time. But no, I mean this song had been kicking about for years. Like probably 7 or 8 years ago, I recorded the acoustic guitar into my phone, and it was because I was watching a program on BBC4 about the Ottoman Empire. Because I love stuff like that. I love like history and all that. And so, and the music, and I guess the kind of the music that they used in that was kind of quite Eastern sounding, and kind of that kind of part of the world. So, I just I think I've been playing Neil Young songs on the guitar, and a lot of them are kind of the drop D tuning, like the top and the bottom string down tune to D. So it was already tuned to that, and then I don't know, I kind of just started playing it, and then did nothing with it for years, and then I mean, as I said, I'll always be honest. We were struggling for songs, we were struggling for content, and so I thought, well, maybe it's time to do something with this, and it kind of gave me the idea for how we were going to sequence the album as well. So. If you got the album on vinyl, this is the first track on side 2. Yeah. So it's very much an album with two halves, because side 1's probably, and the thing is, look, Bowie used to do this on every album. Like side 1's all the kind of the singles, if you will, but like the kind of catchier tunes. Side 2's a bit more experimental, a bit darker, a bit heavier, bit more kind of, well, especially on this track anyway, like it's probably the heaviest track on the whole album. And so once when it was taken to, because with the first album, I don't think we sequenced that very well, and I was like, oh no, I want this tune to finish last, and kind of tried to spread it out, all the kind of poppier tunes. But this tune, I was like, no, let's do like an album of two halves, like the calm and the storm, if you will, if you're going to keep on that nautical theme. But and then once when you were going to do this track, I was like, well, that's a good tune to kick off side 2. So you know right away that it's going to be different from side 1, you know. And we get criticised for that, because I think there was one review that we got, and I think it was pretty much the only review they got, and the guy basically slated the album because it was too disparate and too different, and slagged it off. But you know, I don't care.
I don't get that about it. I think this is the only deviation for.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. This is a definite.
I think for me, this is the only deviation from if you want to go hard into a genre. I don't know what the genre would be, if you call it yacht rock or whatever, right? But I think the for me, this is the only deviation from it in the whole album. So I think it's all shite.
Do I know
I
something?
do as well. It's
I do.
I think it's it's clever track listing, as you said, because it is like I didn't realise Autumn and Blues was side 1 on the vinyl.
Oh, do 5 and 5.
Side 2.
on the side
Aye.
2 in the vinyl,
Aye.
right?
So that's the best way to look at the track listing when you're talking. Now we're talking about
Yeah.
vinyl. I think it's everyone's sitting perfect where it should be.
Yeah.
That's not a good critique, that, innit? No, like it's so because the album isn't different. But
Nah,
even
no,
when we go, if you're talking about that in side 2, like
Then shame them.
Nah,
That's-
do you know? It upset me actually because it was the Morning Star, which is a kind of socialist newspaper, and my dad wrote for them, and he used to deliver it. And like 3 days
Right.
before he died, he was still delivering the Morning Star. I was helping him, so it actually
Wow.
kind of hurt. And basically the guy
Yeah.
said, "Oh, it's online just now, and it will be in the paper this week." But I knew that my mum would and my sister would see it. So when I read the review, I just said to him, "Mate, don't fucking bother putting it in the paper, please." And that was, listen, you can say that's throwing the toys out the pram, and it probably fucking is.
No, I don't think so.
But when it was obviously because it was that paper, it was quite a personal thing, and the fact that they kind of slagged it off, I didn't want my mum to see that because I knew
It's
it would upset her.
unfounded as well. I
you
mean,
know.
what he's saying is absolute fucking bullshit, if you ask me. So
Aye. He kind of said that in a roundabout way, using fucking big fancy words. Do you know what I mean? That's basically what he did.
well, you'll not get that here. Don't worry about it.
no,
Especially not when I'm on.
Yeah. Do you want to know something though? You could flip this album the other way around as well.
Yeah,
So you could take the first 5 songs and go that way. Because I'll say just now that the next 5 songs, if there is that wee bit of darkness in it, which I love, right? So you can tell that, and this just breaks it in brilliantly, I think. But sorry, I need to say this, right? See when it first starts playing, right? Before the keyboards come in, when it gets that bit heavier, I just wanted Ben Otwell to start singing because I thought it sounded very Gomez-like.
Aye, it does.
Aye.
I've never thought about that, but see now you say it absolutely does. And I wonder if they used a wee acoustic as well when they were recording. I wonder if they did because it's a similar sound.
It sounds amazing, and I love Gomez, man.
They're
just
a brilliant band. Brilliant.
But just for that fact as well, I gave it an 8. I thought it was a great start to go. It's taken down a wee bit because it is. If you listen to the next 4 tracks, there is a wee bit of darker element to them. But I think it's a great way of doing it.
leading you down that path, innit?
It's a brilliant way to do it, and 8 for me, great tune.
Nice
I
one,
don't
man.
think it is. I don't think the second side is a darker element.
Well,
I think
look,
maybe
all you need to do is look at the song titles.
aye, but I'm just looking at like it's maybe darker lyrically. You're maybe talking, but I'm like maybe apart from song the next song we get into, but we'll go into that anyway. But that's fair enough.
I gave it an 8. I've put perfect timing for an instrumental. It had me gagging for it to kick in. I'm like, right, what's happening here? Like, I didn't know it was. Obviously, you don't know it's going to be an instrumental till you get to the end. There's no fucking lyrics. You know,
As I said, we were pushed for time.
But it holds you all the way. But it's amazing.
I'm like, oh, it's an instrumental.
It is amazing because it just holds you all the way through.
It does. That's the thing about an instrumental track, right? It's as I say, I was waiting for you to come in and start singing, right? But I was still gripped by the track right the way through until it finished. I was like, oh, it's an instrumental.
I'd love to be able to see what you would sing to that as well, like what your melody would be. It's my massive Oasis fan. I'm a huge Oasis fan. So are you, Skimmer. It's a quick peep.
Oh yeah, Andy Bell's one.
Aye, a quick peep. That's what it is. That's
Aye.
your ode to Andy Bell. That tune.
Aye,
That's what I think.
So it is. Aye, it does sound a bit like that.
So 8
Don't
for
fucking tell
Skimmer, 8 8 for Skimmer, 8 for Andy. I'm 9 in it. I love it. That's my new like.
Nice one, man.
I love the tune. I like blues as well. I kind of got the idea. Autumn and blues. So blues is like American in it. So and you've got a certain guitar sound, but you've went Autumn and blues, right? We're going Eastern with this jingly, kind of brilliant sounding, bright guitar thing, and bringing it up to date to go with the album. So you've got a blues song there, then you're kind of, right, we need to try and kind of keep it blending a wee bit with the album, so we'll bring the synths in, and then it just kicks in nicely. The public gave it a, let me see what the public gave it. I think they gave it a 7. So public, 3 votes, 7. It was actually 3 7s in the trot out of 10 for them, so let's see what the score for Ottoman Blues is out of 10. Here we go.
7.7.
8. And 8 on the
It was
dot.
a 9 and a 7.
Brilliant.
I had that in mind. It was an 8.
That's 7.9 something.
I just 8.
Round
Well,
it
I round it up. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. With this Jag, this arm's now getting absolute gout, man.
Oh, mate.
My left arm up there, I can hardly lift it.
I've
It
got
was-
mine next
oh,
week,
wow.
man. I'm shite.
Me too. Tuesday.
I've had mine.
Oh, don't what you shite yourself about the after effects or the Jag.
No, just the needle. I'm fucking
Oh, no.
alright.
He doesn't like
I,
needles.
s- I swear to God, right? I swear to God, you don't even feel it, and I'm no joking.
A few
Andy,
people have
you
said
know.
that to me. A few people have said that to me.
I didn't feel it.
Oh, Leslie's the bath, man. I'm thinking, no, she'll be alright. I should be fine.
Skimmer. See, I've got the end of I've got the chewed end of this pen here, right? See that wee chewed end bit, or even the pencil. See if you were to just go like that in your arm, that's what it feels like. You don't feel it.
Honestly, mate.
You'll feel it after it when your arms there, mind you. 'cause-
Don't-
'cause-
Just look away when they're doing it. You'll be fine.
Listen,
Aye.
I'm quite happy that I'm getting it next week because we've got the Wembley trip coming up, and I'm thinking at least I'll
Aye.
get my first
Wembley,
dose of the Jag before I get
Wembley.
to London.
Do you know what interests me a bit? We're going off thing to here. See, when the over 50s were getting their vaccine, we heard nothing in social media. It was they just went out and they got
Aye,
their
got
thing.
it done.
And
That's
see,
it,
now it's
can't-
between see, now it's between the 30s and the 40s. It's like anti-vax. This does this. This does that to me. You're just like,
Yeah.
just get the fucking Jag, will you?
I know.
Honestly, just get the Jag.
Did you read the ingredients to the Jag?
Oh, who gives a fuck? I
Yeah,
don't
but
care.
did you actually?
No,
I did.
It's not pretty.
No.
but the ingredients of the Jag.
Aye. But it's funny that most of the anti-vax people that I see on social media are people that will be taking extracurricular things at the weekend and shoving them under beak, right? They're going, you don't know what fucking ingredients is in that stuff.
Anyway,
Hey, that's off topic. That's off topic.
Anyway, we're off piste here.
I'm sorry for bringing up my Jag. I was just wanting
Half pissed, did you say?
Aye, fucking right, man.
Right, here we go then. This is Now in the Desert, song number 7.
It's starting to play with your mind. Just when you thought you'd arrive, starting to steam up your eyes. Just when you're starting to cry, it comes and creates a divide. Just when you're beaming.
Talking about the drummer there, but that boom, boom, that's nice. That
I think, just go back to what we were saying about these tracks. I think this is where you start to hear the drums picking up just a wee bit. Like they seem to be a more definite, heavier element to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think the drums do that.
He done a weird thing with the drums, and this is again totally down to Gordon. He kind of sampled them, and then kind of warped them and made them, and then put them back in underneath the drums. So you can kind of hear it at one point where the drums come out, and that wee sample keeps going. And it's like, like kind of like that. And he basically took the whole kit and warped it. And I don't know exactly what he done, but it fucking, again, it just lifted the whole thing and made it so much more groovier, do you know?
It's funny because with the records, sometimes when they record drums, and all depends on who you're using and things like that.
Yeah.
But they'll record, they'll have everything mic'd up,
Yeah.
and then they'll have room mics
Yeah.
recording the full thing. So what they'll do is they'll take that room mic sound and put a cool reverb on it or something like that in the background, where it's the whole thing in general, and then put everything over the top of it, which sounds really cool.
Aye, what he did as well was he put I think with a couple of the tunes, he put like he made like a kind of tunnel between two bass drums with a duvet.
Yep.
And so it was like a kind of the main bass drum here that was actually getting played. He'd put another bass drum here, and then he'd put a duvet over it and kind of shape it so it was like a tunnel. I think he done that. I'm not sure if he done that for this tune, but he done that with a couple. Again,
the bass sounds different, doesn't it? The bass has got a right punch in it in this. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You set the mic in the second bass drum, and the sound carries across, and it gives that kind of. Imagine like a car going through a tunnel.
Yeah.
You can hear it, and then when it goes through a tunnel, it just sounds completely different again. Yeah. It gives that kind of tunnel effect on that bass.
Nah, totally.
There's a word for it, Andy, and I'm trying to hink it. It's no echo. There's another word.
There's no echo. There's no.
Reverb.
Well, we need David Blair on with his big words.
It's almost like refraction of sound, but I can't remember what the technical thing is.
We said a word. We were trying to think of a word, Ian, when David Blair was on. They come up with this word and then tell us what it really meant and all that, and it was going back to like ancient times and everything. It was a total history lesson. It was amazing.
Oh, he is, man. He's like the fucking. He's like the yellow shaman.
The yellow shaman.
He is, man.
Right,
he's such a nice guy, though.
I love him. Love him.
He's brilliant.
Now in the desert, Andy, what did you give this?
I gave it an 8. Another cracking tune. You can hear the kind of wee darker undertones, as I said. The drums stand out a wee bit more. There's wee things happening. The bass has got that wee bit, just a wee bit less cleaner than what it was before. And it makes for some really nice sounds. And again, 8 for me.
You can see the public gave this a 6, so this is their lowest. They gave this is their lowest score.
Do you want to know something? I actually had a bit of Tears for Fears in it for some reason.
Aye.
I've got a gudgeon for it.
I love them as well, man.
Oh, brilliant, aren't they? Tears for Fears.
Tears for Fears are amazing.
Skimmer, your cell phone this.
7 for me. Another solid track. Wasn't one of my favourite ones, but great. Just a solid album track for me. So 7.
I gave it a 7 as well. Every time I listen to it, for some reason, I feel like so the tune's called Now in the Desert.
Yeah.
And if you're ever thinking a song, now is this one where you wrote it and then you thought, what are we going to call this? It sounds dead deserty. We'll call it Now in the Desert, because if you're ever to write a song about a desert, I mean, visually you've got it spot on. And all I could think about was Who Feels Love by Oasis, the video for that. I could think of it. And it's got that kind of, maybe not the same, it's certainly got the same kind of vibe going on in it. And it's quite trippy, and like maybe a couple of songs in this is definitely the movie feel song. This is like this is going in a movie. There's bits in this you could use, like Tarantino. There's wee bits in this you can use in a movie.
Totally, man.
Get it? No, well,
there is
I
bits.
Do. There is bits in it. No, you're right. There is bits in it. I would probably say that the next track would be your movie soundtrack for something, for a big scene.
Before we go into your next track, because I've got in the next track, I can't wait for the next Medicine Men album, which is coming out next week.
The
and it's
remix
this album remixed, and I can't wait to hear the next track remixed. So tell us about the remix album.
So basically the guy that played saxophone on Change My Mind is a guy called Callum Mackie Cummins, and he is in a band called Yoko Pono, who are like an electro Cayley band essentially, and great laugh at festivals. He also plays with Bomb Scare, I think it is, or is it Esperanza? One of the two. I always get those two mixed up. But so he played sax on that, and then when the album was finished, he was one of the first people I sent it to because obviously he was on it. And then he said, "Oh, could I remix We First Met?" And I was like, "Well, aye." And then Beta Wave said, who I'm good pals with, they said, "Oh, can we remix Getaway Driver?" And I was like, "Aye." And then I was like, "Oh, well, actually, maybe we could do like a remix EP, like get maybe 4 or 5." And then, so I said to the label about it, and they were like, "Oh, well, they said we'll put it out to the artists on the label and see who wants to do it." And before we knew it, we had every single track on the album remixed.
Wow.
And it's some of the stuff. I mean, Domiciles have remixed this track Now in the Desert, and it is fucking astonishing. It is an astonishing bit of music, and everyone's done an incredible job. Like, who else have we got? We've got Acid Ultras, who have basically turned that last track, Autumn and Blues. It's unrecognisable. They've used like two notes. They've used two notes. But I mean, I said to everyone, I was like, there'll be no interference from us whatsoever. Do what the fuck you want, man. And so, and Acid Ultras, to be fair, they were the last people to get involved, because it turned out that Autumn and Blues was the only track that hadn't been remixed yet. And then I'd been speaking to Nick about it, and I was like, well, you know, I said, well, look, mate, this track's here. If you want to do another track, you know, we can have two versions of the same track. That's all right. But he said, no, fuck it, we'll just do this one. So he kept two notes, and so it's completely unrecognisable. And it's the same with Back on Board. Dear Leader, who are on the label, they've remixed that, and they've kept like one vocal phrase from the hit, so that's all they've kept. But the thing is, like, you can't if you're gonna do this, you can't be micromanaging it, because then it defeats the whole purpose of a remix. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got to just let go and give people let people do what they want with it. But no, honestly, every single track sounds fucking sensational. I'm looking forward to getting it out.
Aye, it'd be amazing to hear you reviewing that. Like, reviewing your own remix album.
There we go. There's the next podcast.
The thing is, it's great because it's my songs remixed, but it's other people's work. So I don't feel like I have to be modest about it because I'm talking about other people's work. Do you know what I mean? But no, I mean, everyone that's on there's fucking great, man. I'm trying to think who else. Banco Soup. So that's 4th of June. That's out. That's a week today.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll be brilliant, won't it? Because we've listened to this all week, and then we can get into that and see what they've done.
Yeah.
So it actually works out nicely, this podcast, because when folk listen to this, then next week, get out and get the remix album, and then
totally
see what it's like.
That's what I found myself doing, like, because obviously I'm not doing these podcasts all the time, but so like when I've started listening to an album for the podcast, I'll still listen to it the full week after the podcast. So I'll still be listening to this album all next week, and then the remix one about the Friday.
Aye.
So it'll be interesting, man, definitely.
It'll be good to hear, man. It'll just be completely different. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Right, Andy, you can. I'm feared to say what this. I can't pronounce this.
Necropolis.
Is that right?
Necropol.
Just wait. I think on some things it's listed differently than what it's meant to be. It was going to be. It's basically called Necropolis because the next song's called Graveyard Lady, and it was really written it was really written to be a segue into Graveyard Lady. So it's that was its purpose. And again, we were running out of time. I had to fucking do something quickly.
Worked so well though, man. Worked so well.
You've got to have 10 tracks on an album, don't you? At least any less.
That's exactly what I scored it down for that reason, because I was like, they've just flung that in to get to 10.
Well, partly you're partly correct. You're partly correct, but no, we did spend quite a lot of time on this actually, just to get it. Just to get it right, and we ended up putting in a bit of vocals and stuff, because it was just basically me and Gordon done this. I'd kind of done a demo of it in my house, but we kind of recorded it, we kind of redid it properly in the studio, and kind of added wee bits in.
Is this your walkout tune?
This is what we did for the live stream, yeah. So we walked out to this, and then we knew we'd kind of worked out where in the song we'd need to start. We'd need to start for the next one, so it worked. I mean, it worked pretty well. It worked pretty well.
It does sound like you've spent time on the getting marrying the two, basically.
Yeah. So
put it that way.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, these are the moments that you spend so much time on, but it's the moments that the general public probably care about least. But to me, it was like, when we got that right, I've never been happier. But then I was just like, nobody gives a fuck about fucking segues. Do you know what I mean? Apart from other musicians, probably. Do you know what I mean? That's probably the truth.
I love this. I love this. And I was going to say there, I can imagine going by your review on the Colonel Mustard album, Jason. I know what you like and what you don't like. So I knew a half decent score in this would be all right for you. So I'll get where you're coming from. But here we go. This is number 8, Necropolis. It's like one of the things when you've got GarageBand in your phone and you're sitting having your lunch and you're just like you want to hit buttons and make things up.
I've just heard something there, right? Can I just, while it's in my head,
panning? See
that wee bit of the keyboard there? It's one note away from being "Don't Save a Prayer."
Who's that by?
Duran.
All right, I've never heard that song.
Right at the beginning.
All right, okay.
Right,
dun, dun, dun. There's just one chord. There's just one note missing.
All right.
For this, for this, I wrote this came out of nowhere. Just for listen to like Autumn and Blues now in the desert, and then this comes in, and then I loved how this was one when I first listened. I thought the two tracks were the same track. Do you know that way where they just blend in? So then when I seen it was 2, it was like your beauty. It's a great use of the soundboard, just like the whole album, like the sounds, the synths getting. Your keyboard player's brilliant. He looks cool as well on stage. Kenny just gets on with his job. Like every keyboard player,
definitely.
He sits down, gets on with his job. I've seen his live a couple of times. He's always smiling as well, like looking up and smiling, like just really good to watch. The bass drum and the beat and the sound is excellent, and then it goes right into the next track. And I actually wrote here, can't wait to hear the remixes. I gave this track on its own an 8. Just love it, and I love electro tunes. I love.
Oh mate, the remix of this is by one of the guys from that band, Biss, right? Who had that hit in the 90s. Remember, Sure Candy Pop? And they were on top of the pops and that. So they're now on Last Night for Glasgow, but he's got his own sideline where he does electro stuff, and he's a kind of an electro producer. And so he's remixed this. It is fucking brilliant. It's about 7 minutes long. It's honestly, and see what he's done with it is fucking amazing. Honestly, it's great.
That's brilliant.
Aye.
We'll come to you. In fact, we'll go to Andy because I don't want to Skimmer to dampen that parade there. Andy.
Listen to all your fucking conflicts. Yeah.
Andy, we'll come to you.
I love it. It paints a kind of wee dark side again, which leads you nicely into the next track as well. Just exactly the same what Scott says. It just makes use of everything, doesn't it? But in a kind of cool mood setting way. You know, Scott was talking earlier about tracks for like movie scenes. You know, you could paint a movie scene round about this track, no problem.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So you're going more this scene for movie.
You know, but even you could have it round about a thriller. You could have it round about a futuristic film. You could have it, you know, round about. You could even have it these modern games now as well. Do you know what I mean? You could even have it round about something like that, and it's unbelievable. I gave it an 8 for purely that fact that it paints a cool picture.
Right, so that's we class ourselves as musos. You are as well, Jason. The public.
I don't see it, and this is why
the public has me a 6.5.
This is why it's wasting me because I'm no muso. Right? I just felt when I was listening to the album through, I just thought we just had a fucking instrumental. Right, that was
It's a fair point.
You're allowed to.
So I scored it down for that reason and that reason only. I was like, nah, I'm not having that. We've just had a fucking instrumental. So I gave it a 6 for that reason. But then when I listen back through again, I'm like, I get what it's for now.
Aye, right? Yeah.
So I was harsh on it with my 6. So I would change it, but I would give it a 7 because it's leading to the next track and I like the next track. But when I first listened to it, I'm like, nah, I'm not having that because I've just had the fucking instrumental.
You did get a 6. It was 6. Right, okay then. Let's see what Necropolis.
I'll put it up to 7 now, Scott. I'll change it. Because I get it now.
No, that was your score. Don't worry about it. Where are we? See we need to see when we come back doing this podcast. We need a producer. 7.13. In fact, every tune is over a 7.
That's outrageous.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Delighted with that.
Now, let's go into the next song. This is the penultimate song of the album, song number 9, Graveyard Lady. And I've got to say, this was the big surprise for me in the album. Here we go.
There's a brick wall, baby, and I ain't gonna break it down. And now I understand you are the graveyard lady. The reaper follows you around.
Yes, Andy, you're playing a blinder this week.
Can I just say something as well? By the way, I just stole all your photos for your social media. By the way, so
there's a few of these photos I've not seen. I mean, there was one a couple.
They're on your page.
I know there was a few. There's a few that I don't recognise. There was one a couple back where I was like, I don't know where that is. Is it maybe 2 back?
This one.
It's starting to.
Aye, I don't know where that is.
There's heap. Right, so there is another shot of that. Hold on to see if I can bring this up. Right, let me see by the wizardry
of. For the life of me, what venue that was? I can't fucking work out where that. I don't recognise that, and I'm usually great with that stuff.
Let me see by the power of my.
You get that up then, Andy. It's a Graveyard Lady, right? So I'm listening to this album and I'm like, your backing boards and we first met, and Autumn in Blues, and then as the week went on and the week went on and the week went on, this tune is up there. Honest to God, like it's just nearly my favourite tune. It's just the whole sound, and it's very 90s, and I love how Necropolis builds into it. The ooh bits on it are amazing. Your pronunciations down and around, like down and around, like the way you sing them for the melody's brilliant. And I wrote there that my mate, my good friend Noel Gallagher would love this. And this is the tune that's also got that very Future Islandsy sound to it. Absolutely love this. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. This is actually the biggest surprise of the album for me. Andy, what about you in this?
I love the build, to everything on this. I love the lyrics in it. I love just there's a lot going on in this song. As you said, the backing vocals and everything are just. Was it yourself that did the backing vocals, or was it overdub?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Mark does a lot of backing vocals live, and he's great at it. But when it came to mixing it, he just couldn't get down. So I ended up doing all the backing vocals actually on the album, but he could have easily done them, and I desperately wanted to get him doing the backing vocals on it. But whenever I was in doing my vocals, it was always just me and my own. So he was only ever there to play bass, and we were always pushed for time. So he didn't end up get to sing on it, but he's brilliant for doing it live.
Do you want to know something? This is joint second favourite track for me in the album.
Oh, nice one.
And it just pulls it. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I love the build between, the previous track and this, and it fits in brilliantly. I give it a 9.
Nice one.
And I meant to just tell you the public score on this. This is mental because this is like the public gave this an 8 out of 10.
Cool.
So it's an 8 out of 10. Skimmer, what did you give this?
Skimmer's muted.
Oh, he is muted.
On you go, mate.
I gave it an 8 as well. It's kind of, although we're talking about how the album flows and it's all similar genre, apart from that one curveball with the opening blues, it kind of deviates a wee bit for the rest of the album.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of there.
I think it still fits in.
A wee bit of the change. I know it's a great track.
Do you know who is a star in this? It is the synth player.
Oh,
in this whole album. Like I'm going to give him his dues in this because he's obviously a very good musician. He's obviously, as a band, like obviously you're pushing it, Ian, and it's your baby and your drive. But as a band, it sounds as if you've all got your wee bits in it, and your bandmates like kind of know what sound you're looking for. They know when to come in, and your keyboard player just holds everything together in every song. And it's him that makes this. It's him that makes this song suit the album, because without him, this is a 90s belter.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
not saying it's not belter, but
I mean, he's the one guy. I mean, as I said earlier on, over the years, we've had numerous people walk out the band. But if he had walked out at any time, the band would be over, because he is the one guy I don't think I could replace.
yeah.
So if he had walked out at any point during these last, however, I mean, that's 13 years me and him have been playing together between Selective Service and Medicine Men. And if he had walked out at any point in those 13 years, I probably would have chucked it as well. Because I don't think there's anyone. I don't know anyone else that could do what he did. I mean, there's you can replace drummers, you can replace bass players, and yes, they all bring something different. But I know for a fact if Mick had walked out at any point, I probably would have chucked it as well, and that would have been the end. So. And
does Mick pick the sounds? Does he pick does he go? This year would work here. Yeah.
A lot of the times, yeah. I mean, I played some of the synths on this album, but a lot of the times, but that's generally I'm just doing like one kind of note stuff. But no, I mean, yeah, he very much picked a lot of the sounds. Sometimes I'll pick the sounds, but then I'll get him to play it. But no, I mean, he's integral. He's completely integral to this band anyway. And Aye, no, he's great. He's a total. He is a total unsung hero because he's a quiet guy. Very rarely, he very rarely, he very rarely says much. Do you know what I mean? But he's so dependable as well. Do you know what I mean? Like he's totally reliable and a guy that would always be there, even if you went in a band with him. Like he'd always be there for you as a mate as well. Do you know what I mean?
Ian, I'm gonna quickly flick up this photo and you can tell me the venue.
Oh fuck! That was a terrible gig. That was
Beer festival. Was that a beer festival?
It was a beer festival. It was, and do you know what? It was at SWG3. It was a beer festival. We get booked for it 3 days before, and managed to, because they were so desperate to get some live music on, managed to get a decent fee out of them. But I tell you what, see the people that were there, they could not give less of a fuck that we were there. They did not want to see us. They did not want. They were at a beer festival. They paid to get to a beer festival. It was actually a hindrance. There was actually people really fucking unhappy that there was a band playing. And that was a terrible gig. Fucking awful.
The thing is, I'm just going to bring this up. It looks cool.
But
Nobody's watching the fucking stage. Bring the picture.
Exactly. Bring it back up again. Nobody is fucking interested in this gig.
This guy here, this guy just with a white shirt on looks like he's watching you drink his beer.
I think he's about to throw his beer at us.
We're on that subject. Similar fucking story. I remember there was the Open was at Troon.
Oh,
and some guy had put like a
golf
after party thing on at Troon Town Hall, and he booked us to play it, and we fucking bombed. Like it was full of cunts and chinos and golf polo shirts, and then we rocked on. It was horrendous. Like again, they were desperate for live bands, so we get decent money out of it. But genuinely, it sticks in my mind as one of the fucking most horrible hours I've ever had in my life. It was just horrendous.
They don't want to spend the budget and pay for a cover band. That's the thing.
No,
so
that's it.
We'll get a band, pay them something like half of it.
These guys have got a decent Facebook following. They'll do it. That probably never done any homework in the type of music they played, and they can't like it. Like nobody. We didn't like it. The punters didn't like it. It was fucking rubbish.
There's nothing worse.
I'm just trying to say this. So see that, is that no normal? Like, Andy, do we not get that?
You know, possibly.
Sometimes it is like that. It fucking
I know.
Who are these bastards coming up to ruin my pint?
That lady.
So
8.63.
This started out as a Crash Club song. So this is
right.
So I did the second song that we released with Crash Club was called Penny Drop, and in that same session we recorded this, and there is another Ayrshire connection with this song. So Crash Club are doing a gig at Baker's, right? The old Baker's, maybe 5 years ago, and Sammy, you know the karaoke bar that was downstairs.
The Dungeon.
Aye. So that they used to use that as a dressing room, didn't they?
That's
for the band. So Sammy's fucking got his laptop up and he's sticking on some new tunes, and we're all fucking on it, man. Like I'd been at the Thistle game that day, and they came and picked me up. They sent they sent Neil and Aaron's brother to pick me up from the pub and take me all the way to Kilmarnock. So proper rock star behaviour, and so I'd been on it all day, and you could always get on it with Crash Club because I didn't need to play guitar or organise or drive anywhere, so it was great. And so Sammy's playing these new tunes that he's been working on, and I just started singing along to this, started going whoa, 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 and then the whole room was doing it. Do you know what I mean? And then someone filmed it or something, and then kind of sent me it, and so I was like, no, this is actually quite good. So we worked on it, and then we recorded it. At the same time we recorded Penny Drop, but it never. The guys who mixed it were the type of guys. They were changing. They changed the arrangement and all that, and I didn't like the arrangement that they'd done. And so the Crash Club boys didn't like it either, so it got shelved. But then when we were doing this album, I kind of revisited it, and there was no, in the Crash Club version, there was no verses. There was just that, oh, and then the chorus, that was all there was. So I kind of fleshed it out, wrote verses for it, brought it into the band, and we said, right, we'll try this, but if it's shit, we'll not do it. But it turned out all right. On this version, we were really pushed for time by this point, and I wished we'd spent a bit more time mixing it, because I still think it's lacking something. I don't know if it's maybe a bit of percussion or whatever, but I'm still happy with it. But I wish, this is the one song on the album where I listen to now, and I think, wish we'd had a bit more time with this. But no, overall, it's still great. And I think some people say that it's maybe lost because it's so near the end of the album, do you know? But you need to put it somewhere, don't you?
Well, it's got a great score.
Oh, brilliant.
8.63. Brilliant. Okay, then that takes us on to the final track of the album, Medicine Machine. This is song number 10. There it is.
Right, but we all can repent. Turn around, take a look. We didn't learn it in a book. We've had downs, we've had rounds, but it's all quite contained. And that's why I choose to end. Look out in the fields, the skies to the end of something that I never thought we could mend.
Okay, then tell us about Medicine Machine, then Ian, and then we'll do our final scores of that song.
So I was in the studio with Gordy doing vocals for something else, and then realised that actually, fuck, that's us done, and we'd only used up half the day. So I had that kind of guitar, I had that kicking about for ages, and so I pretty much wrote it there and then in the studio, and just kind of put it
Brilliant.
down,
Love that.
done the lyrics off the cuff, and that was just meant to be a guide vocal, but that's the vocal that we ended up using. And then the week after, so I put down the drum machine, the kind of octave guitar, the acoustic, and the vocal, and then played it to the rest of the guys, and they kind of just played along to it in rehearsal, and then we recorded it with them the week after. And it's probably my favourite moment in the album, because as much as people would say, oh, it's my band, like when the three of them came in at the same time in this song, it's really kind of makes you realise, no, it's not just, it may be my band, but I couldn't do it without them. And I think the fact that the three of them all commit together, I really like. I'm happy with how this one turned out, actually. I think it's great drum sound that he's got, and it's kind of really well mixed. And considering it was just this kind of scratch vocal, you know, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it.
A nice end to the album as well. I gave it a 7.5, and I like the lo-fi kind of feel to it as well. Like the sound, it was very well produced. So it was a really nice ending to the album. I gave the full album. My score was 8.15 out of 10. So that's my album score. Andy, we'll come to you.
Again, a great end to an album. Not very often you get that. Sometimes, you know, and it was you've been. It's almost as if you've been through that whole journey from absolutely balls out to then coming right down and just slowing it right down and just finishing on a nice ending. And I gave it an 8. Great song, brilliant.
I like the name as well. How did you pick the name for that?
It was a working title that just never got changed. That was it. I mean, it was actually Gordon that named it.
I love I love the fact you wrote it in the studio. I like that when there's a song to be written for the album, writing something in the studio off the cuff. I mean that deserves half a point more anyway. Skimmer.
I gave it an 8. Great end to the album. It had a kind of Kasabian vibe to me. I can't remember the tune I'm thinking of, but see, I think it's the vocal effect and just the kind of low-key acoustic tune it kind of reminded me of Kasabian track, but
No, yeah,
I thought it was a great way to
that,
play the
definitely.
album.
Nice one.
Yeah.
It was an 8 for me.
It's quite cool as well. Like, I'm sorry, I'm saying Noel Gallagher again. He's not paying me to mention his name, but his last album, the last song on it was recorded just off the cuff. It was an off the cuff recording in a radio station, and it just sounded so good that no much more was needed. In fact, nothing was needed done to it.
No,
There's a
aye.
rawness about this track, isn't there? Really, like,
Aye, yeah.
you know, you're telling us how it was born, and you can feel that when you listen to the song. It's brilliant.
Aye.
The public gave this 7, so the public's album score is 7 out of 10, 6.98, so 7. Andy 8.3. Andy, you like it better than me.
I thought it was brilliant. I loved it.
Skimmer 7.85. So let's see what the album score is. Where are we? Album score total. Here we go. 7.84 out of 10.
Wow, man.
Pretty good.
Right, let's see what it is in my
We'll
chart.
round that up to an 8, surely.
Let's see what it is in my chart.
I would.
Wait till we get my chart here to see where it is. Right, so let's play.
Well, hold on. Before we do that, do you want to... How are you doing this, Scott? Do you want to ask him the question, or... He's already had it anyway, so...
I ask him it again then.
Aye.
You ask him it. You ask him the question.
And we'll
again.
we'll look back on the previous recording. So you've had this question before, right? But Medicine Men headlines. You can have any venue and any 3 support acts that you want. They could be dead, alive, whatever. What would it be? Right, you've got a track to think about it. So don't tell us now.
Okay, so our favourite track of this album, guys, was the song "Back on Board," and this is it. Absolute brilliant track. We scored it a 9.63 out of 10. It's a 9.63 out of 10, and this is Medicine Men, "Back on Board." Here we go.
There's a devil on my shoulder, and it's you that's keeping me afloat. Take my hand, 'cause my feet are getting colder. There's a devil on my shoulder, and it's you that's keeping me afloat. Take my hand and pull me back on board, 'cause my feet are getting colder. There's a devil on my shoulder, and it's you that's keeping me afloat. Take my hand and pull me back on board.
What a tune,
Love
man.
that tune.
No, that video's not aged well. That video has not aged well.
I'm going to score it down because you did the thistle scarf one.
I'm going to score it down because of the fucking sunglasses I was wearing, man. What's going on there?
Oh, you've got to wear sunglasses, Ian. You've got to wear
Aye, but no,
sunglasses, man.
better ones than them.
Say, how do you feel about doing music videos? I fucking hated them.
Aye, I hate them. I don't like doing, but
horrible, innit?
aye, I don't like doing them because, especially because that one we done it on a bridge over the Forth and Clyde Canal, and there was like people walking by and all that. Fuck that! By the way, that was awful doing that. Awful, hated it. Aye,
You can imagine the wee Neds for still game watching you.
I was just waiting for them to turn up and start flinging stuff at us. Aye,
Oh,
but there was,
brilliant. But
there
I
was
love it.
people because there was people walking by like just with their shopping and that. And then, and then Fraser that was
man.
filming it. Fraser that was filming the video would ask them to wait till the end of the song. He's like, "Can you just wait till the end of the take?" And then people would be like, "No, mate, I need to go home with my shop." And you're like, "Well, I
Oh,
can
I've got
understand."
freezer food in here.
I imagine.
Nice, isn't it?
I could imagine that just when I seen that video. I'm like, how did they do that in that bridge? Surely there was folk walking across that, but that's quite cool to go. Right, let's go. So we've done 45 albums, and let's see where a different port is. So 45, Still Heathing Chemistry. 44, The Man Who. Erratic Cinematics at 43. Love, Death and Dancing by Jack Garrett at 42. Simple Minds, Sparkle in the Rains, 41. Duran Duran, 7, The Ragged Tiger is at 40. The Police, Regatta de Blancs at 39. Faith Brothers Event Tide is at 38. And Pink Floyd, The Division Bell at 37. State of Things by Reverend and the Makers is at 36. Aha, Shake Heartbreak by Kings of Leon. 34 is Play by Moby. Madonna Like a Prayer 33. Posthuman Survival 32. Iggy Pop's List for Life, that's your album, Ian, 31. Blackberry Smoke, The Whippoorwills at 30. And Travis the Invisible Band at 29. Run the Jewels RTJ4's at 28. Exile on Main Street 27. Court and Spark 26. 25 is Together Alone. 24 Villains. 23 Difficult Number 2 album. 22 Jagged Little Pill. 21 in the chart A Different Port by Medicine Men. 20 is Black Country 2. And 19 is Turnstiles by Billy Joel. 18 Humbug, Arctic Monkeys, Metropolis Part 2, Dream Theatre. 16 Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Arctic Monkeys again at number 15, whatever people say I'm not. Queen, It's a Kind of Magic at 14. 13 The Strokes, Is This It? And 12 In Excess Kick. And we're top 11. 11 The Joshua Tree. 10 Thriller. 9 Let It Be. 8 Nevermind. 7 The Bends. 6 Appetite for Destruction. 5 What's the Story, Morning Glory. 4 The Doors. 3 Back to Black last week from Amy Winehouse. 2 Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And number 1 is Revolver by the Beatles. There we go. That's the 45 albums we've listened to, Andy.
Pretty good.
And I think we've enjoyed doing it every week. See, man, I'm going to see all my notes. I'm going to frame all them for every album. Like, I do wee doodles in them all. I've got every single notes I've done. Kind of like we kind of like.
You should frame them, put them up in the
a
man
few
cave.
weeks ago. Nah, I'm going to. Clive Tilsley does it. See, he's commentary. He does these wee pads that he gives to folk. But anyway, let's go in Ian's dream gig with Medicine Men. Who did you pick?
So venue would have to be the Barras, obviously.
Popular choice.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, I would never be supporting these people, let alone them support me. But Iggy would have to be there. Daft Punk would have to be there.
Yeah, that was you said them before. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And for the third one,
It's going to change, Andy. It's changing. We've had
I know,
it was
I know.
Iggy and Daft Punk before, but it's somebody else this time.
I'm trying to think.
I'd maybe get the band back together for that gig. If you
Seaside Sons, straight in there.
Get it.
Brilliant. So you thought I had a band? Are you actually
I
serious
said,
about
I said Seaside Sons, aye.
That's me back in the game, boys.
that? That was brilliant. I really enjoyed doing that tonight. You happy with your album score, Ian?
Mate, over the moon. And thanks for all your kind words, because, as I said, it's not an album that's set the header alight in terms of sales or recognition. So to hear so many nice things really means a lot. So thanks to all three. Really appreciate it.
I think you've got you've got an album there to be proud of, mate. It's brilliant.
100%. I think it's a shame because I know the feeling that you get some that you're really proud of, and then the difficult bit is getting it out there without the financial backing to get it on fucking radio play and sponsoring things and Google AdWords. I mean, I do Google AdWords and SEO stuff for my work, and I know how expensive it is. So to do it for a band,
It's crack cocaine and marketing, mate.
Oh, it's hard work, and it's you've got to. The famous word is you've got to pay to play with these sort of things, and you do to get marketing is expensive.
Facebook ads is the new pay to play, isn't it?
Aye, yes. And the thing is, Facebook's clever with the way that they take their algorithms and things like that. If something is doing really well on Facebook organically from a business type page, which will be a band or whatever it is, Facebook will hold that back. See, when you get a notification in your phone, if you put a post on that says this post is performing 25% better than the rest of your posts, what that actually means is this post did really well. See, unless you give us any money, we're going to hold it back. That's what Facebook means by that. So, and that's the way it is.
You're preaching to the it's a day-to-day occurrence for me.
You're preaching no, finish that, Andy. You're preaching to that.
Converted, mate. No, because just what you're saying though, it's a wild old game, but it's also a minefield at the same time, mate. And
but that's what I'm saying. Without a band having a serious financial backing, it's difficult. I mean, this album. I said that to Scott. I said this album for me, when I listened to it, it's probably the best album I've listened to this year. Like, I'm talking about like fucking sign bands and bands that I've loved for years bringing stuff out, and I've listened to this, and it's probably one of the best I've heard this year. It's just how do we get it to more ears? That's the thing.
I think that's a good thing. I think folk are into all the track things, aren't they? And obviously, this is going out the new, and then it'll be going out again in October, edited down with a time scope, so folk can just jump into bits like they can go there. They're talking about back on board, so they can just go straight to that because you can time code things on YouTube now, which is amazing. So it keeps it going. That's how we wanted to do this podcast to promote. We did our Pelikan 4 thing where we were promoting new songs every week, and I stupidly check what folks' followers were before the podcast. No, right, they don't go up thousands and all that but somebody else is listening to them. Like, how good is it when you go to do a gig somewhere you don't use, and it's somebody that you've never met in your life comes up and goes, "Wow, that was really cool." So watching a podcast,
that's the best. See, when
Aye.
somebody does that, you feel fucking 10 foot tall, don't you?
Totally,
It's
man.
like,
See-
that's when you go, this is fucking worth it, isn't it?
And see this podcast, see the folk that follow us in this podcast, they watch it. See the folk that like the bands that we promote, they like the page and they'll follow the band, like they'll like their stuff, they'll download their records, and that's all we want. I don't care if we've got 100 followers or whatever. If it gets a band or somebody like an extra 5 folk, because 5 folk talking to their pals about it, that's how it builds. I love the album. We all love it. It's sitting at 21 and we're sharp getting into October. This is the last one of the year. We've done well, Andy, but I need a couple of Fridays off, man.
Aye, we need a wee bit of downtime, I think.
You know, it used to be on a Sunday.
It did, aye, but even a Sunday's hard.
Oh, man.
I was
to work on a Monday, man.
I couldn't fucking do it.
But
She got to work on a Monday. Oof.
in saying that, though, you know, it's been great, and like there's probably, well, saying that all the guests that were on the podcast.
Who's your favourite guest in the last 45? Who's been
my favourite guest? That's quite a hard one, mate.
I loved Eddie Dobie doing Thriller. He was just funny. Then he's doing his Bart Simpson. I just like it's just funny. And that Cheggy guy's DMT story. I mean, that was amazing.
It was. There's probably that goes down as probably one of the best stories in the podcast we've had. Is it the DMT? I mean, what I'd like to do is probably take on a podcast and edit down some of the best bits.
The clips, aye.
And put them out and see what we come up with. But you know, I've enjoyed every single guest, all in different ways. You know,
you could probably do a clip show a skimmer with that fucking beer thing that he's got.
Beer
the
machine
noises he
he's
was
played.
making.
I know, that's why I'm not. That's why I bought bottles for the night. That's why that fucking machine's not making
And then
noise
there's
in the
the podcast with you, Andy, when you were on the beer and you were it was when you did your Rainman Villains and you were sober at the start and steaming at the end.
Steaming at the end. I went through a case of lager to myself.
That's been great.
The first one I done, my mum texted me next day. She's like, "You were an awful nick in that podcast last night." I need to be into the next one.
No, I mean,
my most surprising album that I thought, I'm like, oh, fuck, what's this we're getting this week? And then I listened to it. In fact, there's 2. There's Bring Me the Horizons album, and there's that Dream Theater album. That was just brilliant. And you're talking about, Ian, like earlier about the 80s bands with like album tracks you don't really hear of. See, like the Police, that Regatta de Blanc. Some tunes in that, by the way, like album tracks. But anyway, we're reminiscing and it's late, and I really appreciate you staying on to this time, Ian. You too, Skimmer. Guys, see you again in October. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks again, boys.
Guys.
Cheers.